So I've had this idea for probably like 6 or 7 years. Originally, my idea was probably 2019. I played with Stephen Vogt. He had kind of had a very similar story to myself, played at Azusa Pacific.
I think I would really like him. I don't really know him that well.
Votey? You'd like him.
I
You'd
think
really
you would
like
love
him.
him. So I had this idea playing with Stephen Vogt, and I was going to call the show Late Bloomers because I felt like there was a story to tell the younger generation of players and parents that not every kid has to be Bryce Harper to make it to the major leagues.
Yeah.
So I was sitting on this idea for a long time. Obviously, I was playing. Stephen Vogt went off and did other things. I move out to Argyle. I run into Cody.
Yeah.
We didn't know each other. I just, as I started moving here, it's like, hey, this retired baseball player, this retired baseball. We have kids around the same age. We got to know each other. We started talking about the way the youth sports were being played specifically here. It's like so cutthroat here, right? And we're both guys who made it to the top of their profession. And we're so different with our kids than we're seeing like my brother is with his kids and kids in here. Like it's so crazy. So we started just kind of spitballing this idea of doing a podcast and really telling that side of the story, that everyone's journey is a little bit different of how you get to the major leagues. And at the same time, allow retired baseball players and retired managers and players just kind of tell their story from the beginning of how they got to where they're going, and then just kind of give guys a platform to share some cool stories along the way.
Yeah. It was one of those things too, where, and I feel like looking at your career and the footprint that you have left in the game, you have the reputation as being a very principled person, right? Like you have made a lot of decisions in your career, and you've left an impact and a wake behind you that is guided by principles and a lot of morals and, built on character. And I do feel like as parents and as youth sports coaches, like you have a responsibility to the people around you that you're trying to help guide. And my responsibility as a coach or as a dad or as a teacher or whatever it is, isn't to get that kid to the next level. It is merely to use sport as a tool to help train them up in areas of like discipline and character and all these things that are going to transcend the field. Those things matter everywhere. They don't just matter in baseball, right? Like we can sit here and work on your swing all day, but if you're not developing discipline or how to be a good teammate or all those things, then your good swing's not going to matter. And so that was one thing that we had really talked about, and we're like, man, I remember being in youth sports and I remember enjoying it. And I remember there being parts of it that really helped shape me. And then I went and, and then I tried to take my game to the next level, and a lot of things happened. And now I'm going back into it, and I'm like, man, I feel like the goalposts have really moved for what our jobs are as coaches. And so this podcast was kind of born out of it. And I feel like we've had enough guests on here that have been able to share their stories.
Has it all been a similar,
It's been awesome because, if you ask these guys, like, hey, who is the most important person in your life that wasn't your dad that was your baseball career, and they'll name a coach, and you ask them, okay, what was important from that coach, and they won't say anything about like, well, they fixed my swing or they helped me do this. It was like, no, like this coach believed in me, or this coach gave me an opportunity and saw me for, challenged me as a player, whatever it was. It had nothing to do with like their athletic ability.
I always really enjoyed getting a player, getting something that other people may have missed. Like even when I was my first year managing, I was a big bio guy.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you everything I want to know about Kevin.
Yeah.
And he's always been the type of guy I would want to have on my team.
Yeah.
It starts off with reading the bio that he played 3 sports instead of 1. That's a big red flag when you've only played 1 sport your whole life.
Yep.
These travel teams, baseball only, not good.
Yep.
I asked a pitcher one time in the big leagues, because he didn't stay very long. I said, what position did you play when you didn't pitch? I was trying to find out something. He only played baseball. He goes, I didn't play. I just pitched. I went,
your whole life.
You never played another position other than pitcher. He didn't last long. But I don't know. It's
yeah, I mean, but even like when we spoke on the phone the other day, confirming you were coming here, Remember what you asked me? You asked me why
I ask a lot of questions.
You did. You
I
asked a
love
lot
it.
of questions. And I think that's why this is going to
I
be.
have a curiosity about,
Yeah, but you asked me why did I believe that I lasted so long in the draft with the type of career I had.
they don't
And
even have that round anymore.
I know.
I was 23rd round, and I was like, man,
They don't even have that round.
And
No,
I always
not there.
try to really tell parents and kids and anyone or a platform that I have to talk about my journey. The biggest advantage that I had in my life is that I loved it when it came time to really need to focus on baseball.
And why did you love it?
Because I didn't play it year
you never
round.
got burnt out on it.
Yeah.
And
No,
you found out, okay, I like that. I like this, but I like this more. I like this, but I like that more. This fits my brain. This fits my body. This fits, and it's not always because you're having success with it. And I try to tell people with it. I grew up in a place where football was king. And my dad was an All-American football player at a small college. And I thought, everything was about football. And then I said, I really like baseball, but I don't want to break, And he said, do what you want to do. My dad never pushed me in anything, but he made it available. If you want to do it, you're going to do it right. If you start it, you're going to finish it. You're not going to quit. And if you're not having success, it's not somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
And
Where did you grow up?
Northwest Florida, and a little bitty.
Defuniak Springs?
That's where I was born. I went to even smaller school, Century High School, who graduated about 50 people.
Okay.
You had to hustle for a prom date. I think it was the smallest public school in the state of Florida. We won the state championship my senior year.
Nice.
To this day, I remember every pitch, every inning, every player on the team. It's all relevant.
That's awesome.
And, you played football, baseball, basketball, football, baseball, basketball. We didn't have a band because all the boys were playing sports.
Yeah.
And, but I was in a small town. My mom, dad and I had 3 sisters, and, everybody knew everybody's business.
Yeah.
It was like Mayberry.
My dad went to Fort Walton Beach High School.
Yeah.
And
Vikings.
My brother played baseball at the University of West Florida.
Yeah,
in
Argonauts.
Pensacola. And my grandfather's in the Air Force. So
Who was his coach there? Do you remember? Was it Spooner?
West Florida.
Yeah, was it Spooner then?
Oh gosh, you had to
Nice
ask me.
facility.
Yeah, they won a national championship when he was there.
They have football there now.
Yeah, they do have football now, and they've actually done really well. But man, that part of the state, man, it's amazing. It's an amazing area, and it is like
Northwest Florida is a well-kept secret.
It is very.
It used to be the beaches and
We
stuff.
can cut that out because it's going to
Maybe the
remain a
best
secret.
beaches in the country.
What's that?
Maybe the best beaches in the country.
Yes,
All things considered.
100%. But so you play there, and then you also play at a very storied junior college.
See how many people know that?
Chipola Junior College.
Yeah.
I played at St. Pete Junior College.
Yeah.
And
They had the worst uniforms in the state championship. I remember they were blue and gold.
we were blue and white. We were
They were awful.
Yeah,
wore
they were
all
very
blue
good.
uniform back in
we were good.
1976.
Our uniforms were ugly. But man, Chipola, you guys had a tournament every year. But in the world of junior college baseball, and I feel like, I don't know for you, but that was where, because I went from a D1 to a junior college back to a Division I, and that was one of the first times where it was like, how much do you really love this game?
Yeah. Well, you hit levels where you go, holy. My dad really pushed me for competition because I could dominate a classification A.
Yeah.
In Florida.
Yeah.
But he would take me down to the big city in Pensacola to make me face better competition.
Yeah.
But you never had this. But the first time you hit a level where they're as good as you or better, it makes you look at things realistically. Like when I saw Don Mattingly and Steve Balboni, I knew I wasn't going to be the first baseman left fielder for the New York Yankees. They could hit the ball where the grass doesn't grow and do things that I couldn't. So what do? Do I try to act like I don't know?
Yeah.
The first time you see a Mark Langston slider and you go, there's an old expression you call home and say, don't sell the mules, I'll be home shortly. They got something here that I haven't seen before. It's a split, might be a split, but then you find out not everybody has it.
Yeah.
And they can't throw it for a strike. So you figure out another way to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about this on this podcast, other things that I've done too. And like that moment for me was when my junior year of college, I was playing Division II. I was a great high school player. I dominated the level I was at in college. And then I got a chance to play with real competition.
Yeah.
And that was a wake up call for me. It's like, okay, these guys can do things that I can't do, but ultimately that drove me to be better. And ultimately, I left that summer believing that I could
Yeah.
go play professional baseball.
Mine
It
was
wasn't about getting
yeah,
to the major leagues at that point. It was like, oh, wow, I'm this kid from Cal State Dominguez Hills, and I'm in a clubhouse with Texas and Mississippi State and
Yeah.
all these big schools. And I wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to belong. And then I
So-
started to realize, wait, I do belong.
So
And
what
that
do you
was-
do? You pull the wool around you, or you so you know what?
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm big like golf. I've never had a golf lesson per se. I just go, hey, how'd you do that? How'd you hold that club? What were you thinking there? What club did you use? You know, we all steal from people, but mine was AAA baseball.
Yeah.
Everything 300 and AA, boom, 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 and all of a sudden I hit AAA, and I was seeing pitching every night, and I'm going, ooh, and I still hit 270, 280, but not with any damage. So, you know, you figured out a way to come up to the competition. It was always there. Like, but a lot of people just the first time, you know, they get a level where they can't compete, they hang it up.
So
Yeah.
is it true though? Before we get to your minor league career, are you the Cape Cod? You have the highest batting average in Cape Cod.
Well, see, that's
history?
where my confidence, like, you know, junior college, I hit 400 for 2 years. I
Because
mean,
I think it says
and then-
434. I think it's an all-time record in the
Yeah.
Cape Cod. It still stands.
of course it does.
Nice.
No, but you know what? One of the things I have in my possession I've kept through the years is it's Thurman Munson's record. And he sent me a telegram after I broke it. Everybody said he was this curmudgeon, whatever. Hey, congratulations. Records are made to be broken. Thurman Munson. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
What's a telegram?
Pardon? Yeah. What's a telegram? Yeah. So, but that was, I came out of junior college my sophomore year, went up the Cape. I'd never been to a place like that in my life. I was like, oh my God. They opened up the colleges and they all hit the beaches. And I was a short order cook up there. You had to have a summer job. And I was like, that was the best competition. The only one better than that then was the Alaskan League.
Really?
And I went up there the next year to Kenai Peninsula.
I've heard that's an experience.
Yeah. They got mosquitoes for keychains, but great fishing.
Yeah.
But I stayed there 2 weeks and signed with the Yankees. And that was, they'd taken us out to Hawaii as part of, to get you to go to Kenai Peninsula, they took you out to Hawaii to train for a week.
Okay.
And then you fly from Honolulu to Anchorage and then over to Kenai Peninsula. I told my dad, I said, just have them make a decent offer. I'm out of here.
That's funny.
That's fun. But that Cape Cod was quite an experience. That was, I looked around, I went, but I got a confidence out of that.
Who did you play with there or against that was like the big dog on campus, but you were like, you know what? Like that guy might be better than me, but he's not that much better than me.
Nobody.
Was there anybody there?
You know what? I came out of junior college and it just picked right up. I remember the first game up there, I was 4 for 4, and I'm like the MVP of the league. And so when I go to Mississippi State, there was
Feeling
nothing
good.
there. So it kind of continued there. And then my first year in A-ball, I hit 360.
Yeah.
When I came out of the draft, we went right to Florida State League. So all of a sudden, I get up in the Eastern League and the International League, and it's
Real deal.
40 degrees opening day. You're playing up in Canada. It was a whole different gig for me. So that was really where I kind of looked around.
Yeah. So you were a career, 294 hitter in the minor leagues?
If I'd have been right-handed, I'd have probably been a second baseman because I was left, and I didn't really learn how to pull the ball and keep it fair until my last year. I had a hitting coach. He just said something to me that clicked about bringing the handle inside the ball and stuff, and I went, holy cow, where you been my whole life?
So, I mean, 7 years in the minor leagues, career 294 hitter. You never get an opportunity to go to the major leagues.
Just a cup of coffee and spring training, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But, Kev, I've always been able to look at things realistically instead of rose-colored glasses. Oh, I'm getting screwed. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm this and that. I went, they're better than I am. I said, so what are you going to do? I could have continued to play in AAA with the Yankees. I could have gone to another team and played in AAA, or I just gotten married and, they offered me a job as a hitting coach.
So what was that conversation like? Because you hadn't retired from playing yet.
No, you know what's tough is that like the Yankees back then, when you left spring training, the managers we had 7 teams. You had 2 jobs: develop players and win your league.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in that order.
Yeah.
Learning how to win was part of development in their mind. happen to think they're right.
Yeah.
But so I was moved around a lot because they knew that I was kind of a winning player and would make the other guys. So I was wanted on the clubs, even though they knew I probably wasn't going to play in the big leagues. So we had a bunch of 6-year free agents.
Okay.
The best back then, the best team in baseball was the Yankee. Second best team was the Yankees AAA team.
Okay.
We were loaded, man.
Yeah.
So you ultimately make the decision where you talked about not having these rose-colored lenses and being like, maybe I just wasn't good enough. It's not, I'm getting screwed. These guys are just better
And I
than
stayed
me.
out of the cage. Once I did that, I didn't get in the batting cage. I didn't say, look how players hate it when you say, well, back when I played, or this is how I did it, or they don't want to hear that.
So you go into coaching. Clearly the best decision you made. And I'm going to give you a formal introduction here because we're very fortunate to have you. And we thank you very much for coming on to the majors. Managed for 22 years. One of only 3 managers to win Manager of the Year 4 times. The only manager to do it for 4 different teams across 4 different decades. You're 19th all-time on the wins list with 1,727 wins. It's a pretty amazing career for someone that had a really successful baseball career through the minor leagues and decides to get into coaching. So we thank you very much. And it's we don't take it lightly. We love talking about on this show that there's levels to this game that we play. There's talent discrepancy from the best player on your team to the guy who's the 26th. And you as a manager, future Hall of Fame manager in the major leagues. So we don't take it lightly that you're taking time out of your day to be here.
Well, I ain't that busy. People act like they're so busy and, I can't do anything. I can't squeeze you in. Spare me. Okay. Nobody's that busy, especially in the off season, so to speak. But I do love the game, and I want to see it prosper. I want the kids to experience the good things that come from it, and I was, in New York, they used to go, how is somebody from your background in your little city going to survive? I thought I had an advantage. We had one church, one drugstore, one post office, one gas station. And if we didn't treat somebody right or didn't know how to get along with people, my mom and dad would know about it when I got home.
Yeah.
There were no secrets. And, I was lucky. I was lucky. I know that.
So what do you think? Because you get your first managing job in the New York Penn League.
Well, I was in the only advice I give people, I'll try to shorten up, is if you take a job, we got so many people in today's world working on their next job.
Yeah.
Instead of taking what you have and the opportunity you have, grind the heck out of it, and you'll be shocked at where it'll take you if you're not coveting something else. I said, okay, I'm the hitting coach / third base coach / outfield coach in first base coach in Florida State League, Fort Lauderdale, for a manager.
Okay.
So I just decided I was going to be the best at what they wanted me to do. And it was 100,000 degrees with 8 people in the stands.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to get there and throw BP for an hour and do all these. Try to keep them from stepping on their toe. Don't make the mistakes that I made.
Yeah.
Where did you learn that? Is it from your parents? Is it from your upbringing where you could just be grounded and where you're at?
My mom and dad.
It's very hard. It's very hard not to do anything and think about where is this going to get me? What is the next step? And I think it's an important message too for the younger audience to hear, because I always said that was my superpower, was being naive and getting to the major leagues. Is I played baseball because it was fun, and I played baseball to go from 5 years old to 6 years old, and then 6 years old to 7. And then when I was in high school, it was like, let's just get to the next year. And then I just kept stacking years and years. And that was how it was my whole minor league career, because I was so naive. I didn't understand the levels and what I was getting into.
But didn't you hate it when you lost some of that naivety?
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to, I think being a professional in anything that you do, especially at the major leagues, at some point, the best ones are able to keep it really fun and be where their feet are at. And at some point, the business side takes over and you have to start educating yourself on X, Y, and Z. I didn't know what options were. I didn't know what the minor league structure was. I didn't know how many levels I had to climb. When I got drafted, I was so content where I was at that I just wanted to be the best player where I was at. I wanted to be the best player on my team.
You're playing pro ball.
playing pro ball.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I got drafted and they sent me to Clearwater, Florida, which, I was like, wow, Clearwater, Florida. And then you show up off US 19 and you're at the Baymont Inn Suites. You're like, this ain't the Clearwater, Florida I was thinking about, right?
Where was your first spot?
My first spot was New York Penn League, Mahoning Valley.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
my first,
That's
so that
Cleveland.
was when I went
Ohio.
to, that's when I went to like the mini camp thing. And then you get separated into teams. The first team that I played on was Bluefield, West Virginia. The Bluefield Blue Jays in West Virginia.
You
And I
find
was
out
like,
in a hurry whether you want to do this for a living.
yeah. But
Yeah.
to me, it was like where I come from in college. I used to get changed in the parking lot.
Hell yeah.
So we
In
had a
a car.
clubhouse. It was Bluefield, West Virginia, but I was in a stadium. We had an indoor batting cage, and the backdrop was trees. And I was like, "Holy shit!"
You
Like
could actually see the ball.
I'm like, I was so happy to be there, but I was never there as a 21-year-old kid thinking I got to get to the major leagues. I'm like, let's just be where your feet are. Let's dominate this. Some of that was being naive. Some of that was also the upbringing I had from my parents. It was like, just be the best at what you're doing.
I
Yeah.
tell people all the time that, at my level in the big leagues, I'm at the mercy of the mothers and fathers of the world, because by the time I get them at that level, so the only thing I got is strong peer pressure. So yeah, I do care about who you put in our locker room, because I'm a ship passing the night. There's going to be another manager to come along that's going to have, I got it. But if they don't care what their teammates think, then you got a problem.
Mm.
And I was one of my deals when I would talk to people about players that we might be acquiring, and if you have the right peer pressure in a clubhouse, that they're going to actually want to please them. Do they want to please their teammates? Heck with me, you got to understand where you are on the food chain. It's a player's game. It's their game. It's what do they choose to make important. I mean, this is a long subject, but I used to tell scouts, you go into a ball. I never forget, there was a kid pitching over here in Prosper somewhere, supposed to be a first 10 pick in the country. And so the guy goes in there to watch him pitch, and he gets rained out. And I go, what do you got? He goes, what do you mean? We got rained out. I go, no, what do you got? Did you sit with mom and dad? Did you spend some time with them? Did you go see the guidance counselor or the homeroom teacher? Who's his girlfriend? What kind of girlfriend? How's it, brother, sister? How do you interact with them? What kind of cars do you drive? About 10 other things that I won't get into.
Yeah.
Physical traits, what color's his eyes? Does he have a full beard? You never want to take a kid at 18 that's got a full beard, because they're through growing. You better be good. I can keep going, but I told the guy, I said, the most important thing there is spend some time with his mom and dad.
Yeah.
And make sure he's not adopted, because you'll get fooled. I got fooled one time when I said, Jim Palmer was adopted by two guys, wife 5 foot tall and his dad was 5'6". And Jim's 6'5". I go, Jim, how did you get? Really? Well, I was adopted. And God bless him. Thank God there's adoption, But if I could do something, I don't know whether I'd want to look at you play or watch your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Are these things that we're obviously talking about present day right now, you doing that sort of stuff, but you become a coach and then eventually a manager. Are these things that you learned, or are these things that you had always thought about?
No, I acquired. That was part of what we did. We need to look into this before we acquire. I'm always shocked by teams today that are surprised by something about a player. Well, you didn't do your homework. You didn't make the phone calls. You did. I think what's happened a lot, Kev, is that they don't want that part of the equation to offset the analytical evaluation.
Yeah, because now
Like all of a sudden you got all these stuff analytically, which is fine and dandy. We were doing it back in the early 90s. Spare me. It's not something new. And all of a sudden, something from a makeup standpoint or background or whatever, bio, says, yeah, that's fine, but this is going to be a challenge for this guy, especially you got to know who you are as a team. Like in Baltimore, we had to know who we were and who we weren't. It's like Cleveland. You can't go chasing the Yankees and the Dodgers type of approach. God bless them.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Just cede to them and say we're not going to compete? No, we're going to figure out a way to outdo about 10 different things.
Yeah.
I get off subject sometime, but that's
No, I love it because, I think, when you talk about, and it goes right into kind of one of the main reasons why we started doing this and we aligned on a lot of things, but scouting wise, because it's hard not to tell a kid or try and advise a 16-year-old who is playing the game And this happened to me at the end of my career where, I was so focused on maybe some of the analytical side where it's like, dude, what are you doing here? Like, you're not here to look good on a stat cast. You're here to help your team win. So it's like, why are you really here? And I love what you said earlier about, does this guy care about what his teammates think? Because, I heard Michael Brantley say this one time. And he said, man, I feel like you can break guys into 4 categories. And you can find out who someone is by what motivates them, right? And he said, there's guys who are motivated by money. That's fine. There's guys who are motivated by just trying to win. They're just ultra competitive. I remember Mike Trout. I got to play with Mike. And, I mean, he didn't do anything unless there was some competition involved in it. Like, if there was a winner and a loser, he was in. And then there were guys who were motivated by fame and attention. And then there were guys who were motivated by merely like, man, all I want is respect to my peers. I just want to be known and respected and be a good teammate and all those things. And those guys were the ones that, man, if you could fill up a room with enough of those guys, you were going to win. You were 1,000% going to win.
It's like Mattingly. I've had guys through the years that the only way they equated whether or not they'd had a good day at the park was whether we won the game. And then I had guys who were 4 for 4 and we got beat 13-2 and they were happy as a pig in slop.
Yeah.
Hey, it all makes the world go around. I mean, if they were all the same and everybody in every locker room, they wouldn't need managers and coaches and it'd be easy. But there's different dynamics sometimes, but it's pieces. We were a piece team in a lot of places I was. We never really had a big payroll, but there were pieces, like to me, I spent as much time on a backup catcher and a utility infielder, a 4th outfielder, a long reliever, a 5th starter. Those things are what allow you in a sport that you play 7 days a week for 7 months.
Yeah.
To maintain a level of excellence is the what if guys, I call them.
Yep.
Like I want pushback people around me and my coaching staff. I want them to push back.
Yeah.
Instead of going, okay, Buck, you're the manager. Okay. Yeah. Well, I agree with everything. Buck, all due respect, have you ever thought about this? We would always go in spring training. JJ Hardy, how'd you do cutoffs and relays in Milwaukee on a ball down right field corner with a man on first and 1 out? Well, we did this, but we had a first baseman that was like this, so we did this. I said, I love that. Everybody liked that. So we'd change things.
Yeah.
And you also change them according to the talent of your players.
Yeah.
I'd want JJ to handle the ball. Chris Davis could really throw.
Yep.
For instance. Now I had other people that, like Mancini, did not throw well.
Yeah.
So you had to adjust things, but no, I like getting things about players that some people might miss. The essence, like I would go, this guy's going to be a great long reliever. And they go, what? We're supposed to be looking for that? Yeah. If you want to maintain a level of excellence and not get your bullpen physically hurt, that guy's real important.
Yeah.
That people used to go, well, how'd you keep 6 or 7 pitchers all year and nobody got hurt hardly? Well, there's some method to the madness. I watch these guys now go through 30 or 40 pitchers in a year. I go, what are you doing?
So you end up getting your first manager job in 1992 with the Yankees.
In a phone booth in Bradenton.
You're talking about all these things. During that time of you being in the minor leagues as a coach and ultimately getting a chance to manage in the minor leagues, is there a certain coach or manager that you learned a lot of this from, or are you learning a lot of this stuff? Because it sounds like you're reflecting back a lot on a lot of the things you did, but did you know all this stuff in 1992?
No, heavens no. You're all you got to step on your tail. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, but I didn't make them twice. Okay, and I tell people all the time that's what experience is. Hey, don't do what you're doing. I did it, and it didn't work out. This is how it ended.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to experience it yourself, go right ahead. It's not going to end well, but
So you get that phone call in a phone booth in Bradenton, Florida. You're about to be
instructional league. I was there as an outfield coach.
You're about to be the manager of the New York Yankees in 1992. You get that phone call.
Well, this was my first job managing in '85. I thought you were talking about 90.
Oh, sorry.
92, they had fired Stump Merrill, who I was coaching third base for. I was the eye in the sky, making $50,000 a year in New York City. Not good.
Yeah.
And they called me first and said, listen, I know a lot of people are talking Mattingly, whatever, but you're not going to be the manager of the Yankees. And we're going to let him pick his own staff, so you may not even be on it, so you might want to start looking for a job. So I hang up the phone, and I think I'm done. And then 2 days later, they call me and say, come up here for the press conference. You're going to be the manager. 1-year contract, $170,000.
What changed?
A lot. A lot. Some things changed. One, Mr. Steinbrenner was on probation.
Okay.
And they didn't want to pay a manager much. And, it was a 1 year until he got back. He was probably going to bring in his own. But I took it and ran with it. What am I going to do? Say no?
Yeah.
What was 1992? You get that opportunity to manage. What sort of principles, ideas, thoughts were you just going in this kind of a blank slate?
I was trying to win every day. I'm on a 1 year contract, and I'm not going to come across too strong, but we're just going to go grind it, and we did. And we got a little better. I remember Gene Michael, our general manager. I was very lucky to have him. And when he came in one day and said, okay, you can do this in spring training after about a week, he said, you won't be seeing me much anymore. I've been watching, you can do this. And he left. And I was like, that's close to a vote of confidence. And I'm 35 years old. And, it was, actually, of all the places I dealt with the media, in a lot of ways, New York wasn't, I won't say the easiest, but there was such competition there to be right. And there was such, you didn't have to deal with some people that didn't know what they were talking about. And some of if I told you the toughest places compared to, people think it's New York, it was just the opposite. Because those people were driven to be good at what they did.
Yeah.
And they had knowledge of the subject matter. You didn't have to go, did you even watch the game?
Yeah.
Because towards the end of my career, I was always shocked by what they didn't ask.
Yeah.
I want to go, did y'all even watch the game? You didn't ask about the play in the second inning that decided really the game. Well, they're typing. It's not their fault. That's what they're asked to do. They're
trying to be first.
Yeah.
Too.
They're trying to be first instead of be right. It's like marriage.
At what point during that time in New York did you kind of implement play better? Was that early on?
Well, the first time I really embraced it, it's always that way. Because when you're sitting there and you got y'all been in these places, you got all these signs, and these are in a weight room. The harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
All the different stuff. And that's great. Okay. But I've never had something or player say, I got better and hit 300 this year because that saying over there on the wall in spring training. But I did want to get across to them, people don't want to hear about, the charter plane landed late, or the 5-star hotel was
the room service they didn't serve after 3 a.m., right?
Or my cash, just people don't want to hear it. They're working 9 to 5. When you're on the West Coast playing, back in Baltimore, they're staying up to 2 o'clock in the morning watching your game, living and dying on everything you're doing. And if you got a problem with that responsibility, you're probably not going to like playing for me. Or with me. And so I just put up there, play better. I did put some records. I remember I put a picture of Mark Canna, who broke the Met record for hit by pitch in a year. Because I wanted guys to say, okay, this is what this is for the team.
Yeah.
Everything there had to be a team oriented goal.
Yeah.
And, that's culture. They want to talk about culture. The players decide that. And, it starts in spring training. Spring training is my favorite time of the year because it's pure baseball. You can teach, you can get better. I'm always shocked, guys, when they break camp in the first game, they can't run a rundown. I go, what were you doing down there for a month and a half? You're basically rehearsing a Broadway play down there. You're rehearsing your lines. You're rehearsing everything that's going to happen in the season. And then all of a sudden the curtain's going to go on. And you can't run a relay on right center field. You don't have pop flies. Who's going to catch this ball, or rundowns, or pickoff plays? I'm like, what did y'all do down there for a month and a half? I just played games and went home, played golf, I guess, but play better. So the people don't. It's what people don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
they just want to go play better. Please don't.
Yeah.
What's the old? It's really kind of crass. Don't tell me about the labor and all that stuff. I'm not going to use that, but play better.
That is one, when you talk about like just, you see some teams, their ability to they're not only handling the media, but you're handling your teammates and people within the organization as well, because they're
watching. They're
watching. And whenever you have a team that is clearly trying to defend each other and play for each other, but there's also a level of ownership.
Yeah.
And I feel like the best cultures are shown in adverse situations. Like I got a chance last year to watch Cleveland. They're down 15 games.
Yeah.
And they come back, right? And I'm like, man, what does it truly take to, because then you want to, that's when it's like, oh man, the culture there, the culture there, the culture there. Well,
What was that culture when you were behind 15 games?
100%. Exactly. And so it's when you're on a hot streak, everybody's got great culture. When you're winning and you're playing well and you're just figuring out ways to win.
I tell baseball all the time, I say it all the time, it's about shortening the bad times and stretching out the good times.
Yeah.
We're all going to have them.
But I think we've all been on teams or been a part of teams that have been 15 games back. And there isn't this level of, you know what, I'm going to keep showing up because I want to play for the guy next to me, or I want to play for the family that's staying up, or the season ticket holder, or whatever it is. Yeah. Or like you have a duty to this organization. And guess what? You get to put on a uniform today. Yeah. And there's a level of gratitude there. There's a lot of guys that they'll just go straight into like self-preservation mode where it's like, hey,
without a doubt.
You know, I'm not going to pitch today.
I tell people all the time, just watch. You're going to get a lot of things revealed to you during this adversity.
You know, and if I'm 100% honest with myself, like I have found myself in those situations where it's like, man, do I really want to throw today? Like we're 10 games out. And like when I look back at my career, the parts of my career that I regret the most are those. It's not the walk-off homer I gave up to Christian Vasquez. It's the time where it's like, man, I should have been better.
You know, I tell players, like, there's nothing worse for a team than if you're on a field supporting an unjust cause. You know, I remember early on in Manny Machado's career, you know, it seemed like we were out on the field like every night, it seemed like. And I'm like, finally, I go, Manny, we're going to be there regardless because you got our uniform on. But be right. Be right. Because, you know, there's nothing worse than having a team out there fighting the fight for an unjust cause. So make sure it's a just cause. And I said, let me give you an example. So I did. And I think that kind of stuck with him because, you know, you're there for your teammates and what have you. But when you're out there and they're wrong, it's not a good feeling. And when you get somebody hurt as a result of it, as a manager, you're really ticked off about it.
Yeah, I mean, as we were kind of just looking at your body of work, I mean, we're going to get into details of all this stuff, but I think the one thing that really stands out to me is what you've talked on a lot is culture. What you built every place you went was culture, you know, and I think there's even people that consider you a World Series architect as some of these teams that you did. Ultimately, you didn't get a chance to manage these teams when they won the World Series, but you laid the foundation.
Yeah, we always had a lot of help, and you know, nobody said it was going to be fair. I don't sit around and go, what if and regret. I don't. I know how honored and lucky I am to have done, especially my background, to be a part of stuff, and the game allows you to do it, and you can't ever take it for granted. But you know, it's about picking winning players and people. You know, just because someone didn't play for me,
which is more important in your opinion, because those lines get blurred a little bit. Is it more important to have a bunch of winning players in your clubhouse, or more important to have winning people?
Well,
or are those
first of all, Kevin, let me be straight about this. You've got to have a certain amount of ability to play in the big leagues. Otherwise I'd get 25 Green Berets and we'd go after them. Okay, so you got to have a certain amount of ability, but the people don't realize the difference between the Pittsburgh Pirates losing 100 games and the Dodgers is not nearly as far as you think it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, once you get to that level, what's the separator? You know, the ability to, Gene Michael used to talk about, and you always watch about somebody's ability to concentrate. That was a big tool he looked for. Can he concentrate? So if I go to somebody and go, hey, how'd you evaluate his concentration skills? They'd go, what are you talking about? They don't, I used to watch guys on deck all the time. Are they watching up in the stands? Are they concentrating? You know, something happens on the field. Can their concentration maintain as a pitcher and what have you? But putting together that part of it, that skill of knowing, it requires a lot of communication. You know, I've called clubhouse guys. I've called parking lot attendants. I've called homeroom team. I don't even want to tell you some of the people. The best information is a coach or manager that got fired from the year before because he'll give up everything.
Yeah.
But I'm always surprised at that them getting surprised by players' makeup or whatever. Did you do any homework? Did you do any background work? Like there's one part of the bio that paints a picture, but but most of the time the bio, like reading Kevin's bio, I feel like nothing today surprises me.
Yeah.
Because once I see the bio and I see the way everything flowed and where you're drafted, same way with you, you know, you didn't go into it. Well, I got to show everybody. What I'm just going to plod. I'm a plotter. And what happens is people that like to win are drawn to guys like y'all.
Mm.
They're drawn to them. They know what they're looking for. They know what it smells like, what it looks like. Well, tell me what it is. Well, pal, if you haven't done it, you don't know what they look like. Like,
Do you think
the way you two guys look when you're talking to somebody. In today's world, I started finding out I was getting players that if they come in your office and it's not a Zoom call or something like that, they're like, and they're uncomfortable and they're like this. They are.
Do you think it's difficult because some of those traits and attributes that you were talking about are not quantifiable? Because we always talk about.
I didn't want to say it. You said it.
Because we always talk about wanting the 5 tools, and we obviously know what those 5 tools
great.
are. And when you're talking, it reminds me like the greatest compliment I got in my career was from the GM of the Blue Jays at the time, Alex Anthopoulos.
Yeah.
I was going up against another player in 2015 for center field, potentially an outfield job. Someone got hurt, so we both were able to coexist. After the season was over, and after 2016, when he left, he got fired from Toronto. He called me on the phone and said, I had it all wrong. And he referred to this thing called the pork chop test. If I put you and that guy in a room and said, who's going to come out with a pork chop? It's you 100% of the time. And I'm sorry I missed that because a lot of that's not quantifiable. The player that I was competing with possessed more tools. He could throw faster or he could throw further. He had more speed.
I know.
I know he knows
but in
it is.
But I always ask guys, are you going to win the tiebreaker? What do you mean? Are you going to win the tie? I was at some banquet. Oh, there's a player that's now the director of baseball at a college. He asked me to come speak at a banquet. I said, Johnny always won the tiebreaker. When you're in those rooms and they're deciding the roster, who you're going to keep, who you're not going to keep, and it's close, he's going to win the tiebreaker just because he's a winning player and somebody that you can count on, that you trust. And when I said that, and it may be a 4th outfielder, today they don't even know the difference between a 4th and a 5th outfielder. There's a big difference between a 4th and a 5th outfielder. What difference is that? And I always go, what if? In spring training. Okay, what are we going to do if J.J. Hardy breaks his leg second game of the season? Because they're not going to wait on us to catch up. Hey, listen, the season's on hold for the Orioles and stuff. And you got to maintain, okay, Ryan Flaherty, Rule 5. This is what, you're not going to be as good. And if he plays too much, he might get overexposed. Who knows? Or you may find a diamond in the rough. You might go, wait a minute, he's better than I thought he was. Have an open mind, because these guys are so I wish everybody could sit in a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning with coaches. I used to tell the players, come on in, sit down. You want to get up that early? Come on. I want you to hear everything's being said about you, and at 7:59, I'd reach back and lock the door. And if you were late, banging on the door, sorry. Well, that only happened for one time, but I used to invite the players, come on in these meetings we have about y'all. And I want you to understand the tiebreaker. It's makeup and winning player. And, do you win the tiebreaker? Are you a pushback guy? You've seen those Westerns where the guy's riding on the horse and a guy gets shot off his horse. And there's always one guy that stops his horse and comes back and gets him. The rest of them just keep riding. I call them comeback guys. Are you a comeback guy or are you a guy that just keeps on riding and leaves your teammate in the dust? But there's ways to get across that. We used to go to a movie theater every spring. Like, don't you hate the first day of spring training? You stand around, the trainer talks, the coaches talk. You're just sitting there forever in front of your locker. Because I'd always look at through a player's eyes. I go, this is awful. All they want to do is get on the field. And by the time they stand up, they're all stove up or stiff. So I used to tell them we're going to do it the night before at 6 o'clock. And when they'd get there and there'd be 2 buses, we'd get on the bus, we'd go to the theater. And I had a little 20-minute film every year about what we wanted to be about and who we were. And they used to really look forward to it. The guys that knew it would start getting popcorn and whatever at the theater. But we had a great time in there. We got everything out of the way right up front. This is what's going on.
Dude,
this is what we're going to be about.
That would have been awesome.
And that's where, now, tomorrow morning we get here, it's baseball. It ain't any of this other BS. So, the guy would talk about what group you're in and this and that, whatever. And then at the end, I'd say a few things about what we want to do. So everything's right out in the open. This is what we're going to do. The thing that drives players crazy is the unknown.
Yeah.
Just, man, even if it's unpleasant, tell them.
Yeah.
Listen, here's what I think you're thinking. That's why bullpen guys in spring training, well, during the season, I miss walking around during batting practice because now they hit in the cages. Don't get me started, please. Get on the field. Get out in it, especially day games. Get out there. And I used to walk and I'd talk to the people who weren't playing that day and the relief pitcher. And that's how I learned through the years about what relief pitchers go through.
Yeah.
Like the dry humps, kill them.
Yep.
Kill them. Don't get me up unless you're going to use me. I can pitch for you almost every day if you don't dry hump me.
Yep.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
But anyway, but talk to them. Hey, tell me what bothers you. I would tell a guy, hey, you're going to play Friday. There's a day game Saturday. You're going to play Friday. You're going to play second base, whatever. But it drives them crazy when they don't know. Just put yourself in their shoes and go, okay, what's he thinking?
I want to talk about comeback guys real quick because 1995, you're the manager of the New York Yankees still, and that's the beginning of the core four.
Yeah.
Did you know right away? And obviously,
I had them in the minor leagues.
Being
had them
in
the
the minor league organization, you knew what these guys were about. But did you know when those four guys showed up that they were going to be the four guys that they end up being? Did they have
I call
those
them the Fab
characteristics?
Five because I put Bernie in there too.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bernie too.
I had Bernie when he was 17, making him switch it, and he quit. His dad told me, he said, when he dropped him off, said, here, keep this phone number. Bernie's going to quit, especially if you make him switch hit. And sure enough, about 2 weeks, he comes in. I'm going home. I'm going back to Puerto Rico. And I said, okay, Bernie, that's fine. Let me make a phone call. I go, who you calling? So I'm calling your dad. He said you'd quit. He goes, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I said, Bernie, just pinch hit. Switch hit for another week. We taught him how to bunt a little bit so he could get some hits. And I said, years later, you're going to thank me about it. And years later, he did. But, Pettit weighed 260, had a weight problem. We had to work at that. Jeter was just coming up. When I first saw him, he was 165 pounds, soaking wet, but his mom and dad and sister were with him. And I knew he had a really good foundation.
Yeah.
They were impressive. I remember that. And he had alert eyes. He had peripheral vision. He could see the cutting guard in a fast break. He could see things around him. He wasn't like, I remember thinking about that. And Posada was a second baseman.
Yeah.
We converted him. And Rivera, at 19, he had elbow surgery. And a lot of people didn't think he was going to pitch again. We were rehabbing him on the backfield. First time I knew that Ron Guidry and Whitey Ford would go play catch with him as part of his rehab. And they came in one day and said, I'm not playing catch with him anymore. I said, why? I said, well, his ball moves right at the end and you can't catch it in the web. It's just pounding our hand. They took their glove off and I went, oh my God. And he had this little late life then. And then you ever throw a bottle top? That's really what his cutter was. His fingers were so long and so thin. And on Sundays, we would play games in extended spring and he would play center field. I would let the pitchers play a game and I'd get in a lot of trouble for that if they found out. But he was our best center fielder.
Really?
He could really
So, because
play.
he was a starter. Was he a starter?
Yeah.
He was a starter when he
You
got to
get
the big
bored
leagues, right?
sometime. Look at that year in the Gulf Coast League was the first time he hit my radar. He had like 7 walks at 18, 19 years old in almost 60 innings.
Which is unheard of.
Nobody does that.
Unheard
and
of.
then he had strikeouts and I said, who is this guy? And he always throwing his fastball.
Yeah.
His breaking ball was awful.
Awful.
First time I saw him pitching big at Chicago, he was supposed to throw like 3 or 4 innings in a spot start. And he's just cutting them up. And the only time he got in any trouble was when he tried to throw that ugly ass breaking ball he had. And I go, Mo, Mo, just stay hard, man. Stay hard.
He was so incredible to watch. And like
when people know what you're going to do to them and you still do it.
It's unbelievable. Like guys are up there. Like I remember listening to Chipper Jones talk about facing him. And he's like, it's like you're trying to he's throwing chainsaws. Like he is literally throwing chainsaws
That's a great
at
way.
you.
And I'm sitting in the dugout and watching people go get their other bat.
Yeah.
I'm not breaking my gamer, man.
Yeah. And then I remember listening to Carlos Baerga talk, and he's like, man, we literally had a bat that we shared. All the left-handed hitters, we had a bat, we called it Stubby. And it was like a 34-inch bat
with a handle about
where
like
they
that.
cut the knob off and they moved the knob up. So like the fat part of the bat was still there. So they basically were using, it's like
torpedo bat. It's basically what they're using, right?
Yeah. It was just the torpedo was way on the handle.
Yeah, they always. I love how today's game they act like they're new and never been done before, and you just go, yeah, we did that. My wife used to do charts in the New York Penn League of where everybody hit the ball off our pitchers, and we would set the defense accordingly. I'd bring the chart home at night, and she had a blue pen for this, and a red pen for this, and a green pen for this, and she can still rattle off all those pitchers' names. And I used to, okay, tomorrow we're going to play this guy here. And all of a sudden you get to the big leagues, and now they act like it's something new. They got more ways to gather their information.
Yeah.
But we had to do it by hand. I had cards I carried around with me about tendencies and things that people would do and not do. And,
so
it was a lot more based on your gut too.
With Mariano, the fact that he had one pitch, did it make it an easier decision to move him to the bullpen? Because he was still dominating, like you said, as
there used to be a process that relievers went through. It started, a lot of them were failed starters because they probably weren't a third pitch or didn't have a really good second pitch. And then they went to non-closing. And if they were good enough, they'd get to setup.
Yeah.
And then by the time there was an apprenticeship and a process to get to the end.
Yeah.
And he served all those.
Yeah.
He had a perfect background, and everything, he was ready for it when he was ready for it. He wouldn't have been ready the year before when he was setting up for John Wetland. He wasn't ready yet. Okay. He was slow to the plate. One thing, you can't do that job and be slow to the plate. And, he fielded, you think about Mo, he kept the ball in the ballpark. He fielded position, held runners.
Yeah.
So you couldn't bunt on him. You couldn't steal a base, and you couldn't hit the ball out of the ballpark on him. That's a pretty good recipe for success.
It's kind of you think about like what you did with Mo, and I will say, like, Andrew Miller was a teammate of mine, and
I had him too. He's special.
Man, he spoke so highly of how you treated relievers. And, and I know you didn't have him very long, but he played.
I wanted to, but we couldn't afford to sign him.
He played for some really good managers. He played for some great teams. And of all the managers that he played for, he said you were probably the best bullpen manager that he had.
I had good people, but when you can put a bullpen together.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing without, it's like you want to get to the point where the phone rings and nobody has to answer it.
Yeah. And so I say all that to the Baltimore bullpens that you had. You had some great, unbelievable pieces down there.
Well, pieces, and knowing how to use them and not overuse them. And have them have confidence, but it comes from talking to them, Cody.
And I think what you were able to do too is take a guy like Zach Britton, who unbelievable career, but I played against Zach in AAA as a starter.
Another great example is Jim Johnson before him.
Yes.
Both of them starters, the process they served.
And he went through the roles, and you're not going to find out where they fit as the piece. Like, what piece are you?
But you gotta watch.
We can move.
You gotta watch. Just watch. It's like these parents today that they want to go from A to Z.
Yeah, and we always knew
they want to cheat the process.
We always knew, and when we were in Baltimore, we always knew, like, this is a Darren O'Day spot. Yeah. This is a Zach Britton spot. This is a Tommy Hunter spot. This is
Brian Mattis.
Yeah, Brian Mattis.
Another starter that
you
had
talk
failed.
about the long reliever that saved your bullpen. There was your guy right there.
T.J. McFarland.
Yes.
When people would say, who's the most valuable part, you think it'd be Britton or Jim? I said, well, T.J. McFarland, actually, because we never, and here's another thing. When he pitched 4 innings in relief and saved our bullpen, when a guy spit the bit in the second inning, don't send him out.
Yeah.
Do not send him out.
Yeah.
Do whatever it takes. The rest of the bullpen said, hey, we'll pick it up if it happens again tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you can't have that guy do his job and then send him out. And that's what I see all the time.
Well,
you're trying to develop a clubhouse? Send that guy out after he's been a comeback guy. He's a comeback guy. He came back and saved your bullpen, but yet you're sending him down to podunk.
Yeah, that's the ugly side of the game too.
Yeah.
And I love that you talked about that too. And I think that obviously goes back to building a culture and understanding your players, because we've all seen it. And you obviously were a bullpen guy, but I thought about it many times when I was in the outfield, and a starter either gives it up early or he leaves with the injury. And I'm shaking my head. I'm like, that poor son of a bitch who comes out of that bullpen, he's about to wear 5 innings and he's going to get a one-way ticket to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I don't know when we'll see him again.
Not us.
And it's just an
We
awful
kept
part
him.
of the game.
We
So
kept him. And we were good because McFarland was a Rule 5 draft
Yes,
guy. And
from Cleveland.
And we couldn't send him out,
Yeah, from
which was perfect. I said, perfect.
Yeah.
Instead of going, oh, God, we don't want an unoptional bullpen. But we had, Brock and O'Day and Britton and Jim Johnson.
Brock, yeah.
And you develop a Michael Gibbons. You develop a Britton along the way. We had guys Shouse down under.
Yeah.
But they knew that you were going to put them in a position to be successful and make a career.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden, Darren got to the point where he hated just facing right-handers. So he had a little upshoot
He did.
that he worked on, an 89-mile-an-hour upshoot that left-handers would swing through. And he goes, okay. I go, all right.
Yeah.
Because he said he didn't want to be, I love those guys. That was a good bullpen and we had a good bullpen coach. And we had 3 modes of operation where the phone would ring and it'd be red, yellow, or green. Red meant get your glove, get your shit, take your drink of water, take a piss, whatever you got to do, get the catcher down there, get a ball in your hand, but don't throw.
Okay.
Because we're not dry humping.
Yeah.
Yellow meant get it going a little bit. Hey, let's start moving. And green, if you ever got a green, you were coming in the game. You can let her rip because we're not going to dry hump you. You're coming in.
Yeah.
But you can't go to green and then not bring him in.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of confidence that they used to develop through that. But don't get a red call and you sit on the bench and then we got to wait for you to take your jacket off. We got to wait for you to find a ball. We got to wait for you to, Rome's burning out here. But I'm trying to wait as long as I can to get you up because I know what that does to you. I'll tell you what it started with Steve Howe years ago.
Okay.
I'll try to shorten the story up. We're in a hotel in Cleveland and I get him up. This is 92 or 93. And I don't get him in the game. There's a double play ball or something happened. And he was coming in. And that night I'm sitting in my room doing some paperwork stuff and the room above me, it's like somebody's coming through the floor. I'm going, what's going on up there? So I look at the room and list and I'm going like this and it's Steve Howe. Next day I go, hey, Hauser, I go, talk to you. Man, everything all right up there? And you having a wrestling match up there? He goes, hey, you want to know? I go, yeah. He goes, you can't get me up and not bring me in the game because there's an adrenaline flow. When you get up and you get a ball in your hand, you're throwing, there's a juice. I'm going in to compete. I'm locked in. I'm concentrating. And all of a sudden you pull that plug. And then you ask me to do it again the next inning. Well, that juice ain't quite operating.
Yeah.
Especially I've seen people get them up 3 times. So, but you only get that from talking to guys who have done it.
Yep.
And understand, what I'm talking about. I can tell that there's that juice flow when it brings and goes, Cody, that's you. Let's go.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden they go, it's not you.
Yeah. This was always a good one too, where I feel like some guys just never quite got it. And this was obviously before the 3-batter minimum rule that took place. But we had a guy, Tony Sipp.
Yeah, I remember.
And
left-hander.
Tony Sipp, he's awesome. And every time we're going to Minnesota, every time we go to Minnesota, they got Morneau and Maurer. They got Morneau and Maurer there in Minnesota. And there'd be Masterson or somebody's in the game. And so he would have a lefty up. He would have Sipp up every time. Be like, hey, get him ready for Maurer. And it'd be Maurer and Morneau back to back. And it'd be like, are you really bringing him in? Are you really bringing him in? And it was like, man, I don't think our manager at the time knew. I'm not going to say his name, but I don't think our manager at the time knew if he wanted to bring him in or not. And so he'd have him hot and ready.
He wasn't really, yeah.
He'd have him.
The other flip side of that too is you go, you can win a game with a pitcher you don't use. Like say Maurer and those guys didn't start the game.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there and at some point they're going to pop them.
Yeah.
But you got Sipp sitting there hot.
Yep.
And after the game, though, you got to go, hey, you won this game tonight because they never could use those guys because they knew you were ready.
Yep.
And I see managers not have that guy ready.
Yeah.
And they get surprised by the pinch hit.
But I mean, Sipp, he probably threw in 75 games that year. But I guarantee you, like the toll that took on his arm, he might as well have thrown in 120.
Yeah, it's not shame on them, shame on you.
Yeah.
because you're trying to protect these commodities. And a place like Baltimore, we couldn't hurt our players.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have anybody to replace them with. So it was paramount that we kept them healthy. And that doesn't mean you don't use them. Sometimes we'll go, hey, you're pitching today. You are pitching today regardless. Or, hey, by the way, I want you to be in the dugout today because you're not pitching. Stay in the dugout and get a feel for the game from here.
Yeah.
I tell Zach Britton, hey, go sit down next to me.
Yeah.
Really? No, I think I can go. No.
Well, and also too, it gives that guy a chance to just kind of like give him a day to just mentally relax.
Yeah. But that only comes from talking to them and knowing that what they go through and talking to them. It's like, the amateur baseball day. My son was in high school, and spring training I've got 30-year-old guys. I got to entertain them.
Yeah.
It's 10 to 12 minutes. I never do anything more than 8 to 10 to 12 minutes maybe. And everything has to have a purpose. You can't just I call them just jacking them around when wait a minute, you're doing something that's really not productive to winning a game. You're just trying to keep them out on the field. Like I never have pitchers shag.
Yeah.
Please. There's nothing good. They're going to talk a lot and they're going to run into each other. With pitchers, you can throw them, you can condition them, or you can PFP them. Otherwise, go home. That's it. You're wasting their time and whatever. So we did it. That was 3 things. But while you're there, you better lock it in. And the outfitters and whatever drill you're doing. But I told the high school coach, he goes, what's going on? We only got 15 guys out here. I go, it's not their fault. It's your fault. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, look at the basketball court over here. Look at the lacrosse and football. I said, you've taken baseball. I said, I just watched a guy stand out in left field for an hour during batting practice like this.
Yeah.
He's 15 years old. Are you kidding me? He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, I'll tell you what, I tell you what I'll do. Because I was kind of the groundskeeper for his high school team. I love cutting the grass, raking the dirt, and painting the flagpoles. But I said, I'm not coaching your team. You need to coach it. I said, I got your practice for one day. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I walk out there, they're 15, 16. They come out of class at 3 o'clock, and they're all walking out in right field. I said, where are you guys going? They said, we're going to stretch. And I said, you're 15 years old. You were loose when you got out of bed this morning. You don't need that stuff. All right, what about you? What do you always wanted to do? And well, I always wanted to catch. I go, get the gear on. You're behind the plate. What about you? I always wanted to play shortstop. So go play shortstop. I said, I'm pitching. It's an 0-2 count. And after every hitter, move up a position. So everybody's going to play whatever position's out there. And we're going to run the bases. We're going to hit the ball. We're going to field it. Well, after about 10 minutes, they're having the time of their life. They're playing the game. They're running the bases. Every pitch is being put in play. I said, Coach, it's not their fault. It's your fault. You're taking all the great things about our game and making it so sterile and so stiff. I watch practices, some of these travel balls teams, and I always tell the coach, would you want to play for you? Would you want to be at one of your practices?
Well, it's funny. We coach together. We guess travel.
Got to make it fun for them. They want to come back.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back to, Coach Allen's practices are so much fun, Mom.
Yeah, I think when he calls me and we talk about the game plan, we're like, okay, remember they're 5, 6, 7 years old. It's like we got them for 1 hour.
Yeah.
A win for us is not that we taught him how to field ground balls.
Yeah,
A win is like, hey, when is practice again, Coach?
Yeah.
And I think the
snacks are important. The snacks are important.
But I think there was a couple kids after our practice, they were like, it's over? I was like, yeah, we only got 1 hour practice. They're like, that was the fastest hour ever. It's like, if that's the way they feel, then we did our job.
Yeah.
We kept it moving. We kept it fun.
Once again, it's not their fault. It's our fault. I tell people, don't get mad at a player who got a $2 million raise for striking out 180 times. They're going to chase what's important to whoever. It's not the player's fault. Don't blame the players. It's their game. I used to tell coaches all the time, listen, this is their game. We're caretakers of it. Just, find out what they need, provide it. And every once in a while, they're getting ready to step on their tail, go, hey, man, I did what you're doing. It ain't going to end well. But spring's great.
I want to navigate you through your career a little bit because it's so impressive when you look at it on paper and you're sitting here, and I want you to kind of go through these things. But you win the Manager of the Year for your first time, 1994 with the Yankees, right? 95, the beginning of the core 5, we'll call them, comes up. The following year, and you got to correct this if this is true, because not everything on the internet is true, right?
You got that right.
You get offered, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of the scale of where money was at that time in 1995, but I believe you were offered over $1 million for a 2-year deal. In exchange, you had to fire your hitting coach. And you said...
I had to fire 4 coaches.
You had to fire 4 coaches. And you said you wouldn't do it.
Right. There's no other reason why. I was there 19
And
years.
that was a lot of money back then. I mean,
I didn't want to leave the Yankees. I didn't. It broke my heart. But as my dad said, he said at some point, I'll never forget his statement. He said, at some point you're going to have to plant your feet and make a stand. It's not now, but you'll know when it is. And it may not be pleasant initially, but it'll pay off in the long run. So that was that moment, because all those guys were part of our success with the Yankees. And a lot of people don't understand this. I think you guys will. I walk in a locker room. To this day, I can't believe when managers give up their coaches. I walk in the locker room, I say, we're all doing this together, da, 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 da. Oh, by the way, all those guys I said were great, I let them fire them. If I was a player, I'd go, why do I believe anything you're saying? You're giving up coaches left and right. And I also knew, well, those guys, 4 guys went on to have 20-year careers as coaches. I had the right guys.
Yeah.
And Rick Down, you may have known Rick.
Yeah.
Rick was one of them. Mark Connor was with Toronto too. Brian Butterfield was one of them. These
Butters,
guys,
yeah.
Glenn Sherlock, all those guys. And I took them with me to Arizona. Now, listen, I didn't have a job. I didn't have an interview. I didn't have anything. I came home. My wife said, what are you doing? It wasn't good around our house for a little while.
Well, because then there's that, I'm looking at, the years here. There's a 3-year gap.
No, I went, and when my contract ran out at midnight in October 31st, Jerry Colangelo of the Diamondbacks called me at 12:01 that day with the Diamondbacks.
And the Diamondbacks were not a team yet.
No, but I went out there for 2 years with them and brought those 4 guys with me, and we put the thing together.
So tell me about that, because I'm so intrigued by that, because
that was challenging.
Everything I can imagine.
If someone called me and said, put a scouting department, put a player development, put a Latin American program together. I mean, we were in Boca Chica.
So y'all were doing everything from the y'all had nothing at that point.
Stadium, locker room, dugout.
So it's safe to say we take for granted the complexity of a major league organization when it's already built. And when you have to start from ground zero, it's not, hey, I'm just going to get coaches and players. They're going to build the stadium. It's finding minor league affiliates.
Actually building the stadium was, but as far as the dugout, the locker room, spring training in Tucson.
Yeah.
We started from scratch with HOK. They probably didn't like me real well, but I wanted it right. To this day, I think that might be the best spring training complex functionality ever made, because they let baseball people design it.
Yeah.
The second best one's in Sarasota, the one that they let us design with the HOK people for the Orioles.
For Orioles, yeah.
And didn't spend a lot of money. Nowadays, I think they've made them too good.
Do you think so?
They've actually made some of them where players can get lost. I'm very protective where players can be a team, whether it's mode of travel, the locker room. Like the first thing I do when I go into places, everybody that's not on the team gets out of the locker room. There's 26 players in there. That's it. And, because it's an interview room half the time, but when they can drop their hair and be themselves and interact with their teammates, you can't take that away from them. You can't have a batting practice pitcher and a bullpen catcher and somebody that might go say something to the front office. You don't want that in there. Let them be themselves. Drop their guard. There's so many times they're so guarded, but, you got to fight that fight for them.
What was the most
Arizona was a challenge.
Yeah. What was probably the most difficult part of that whole process? Because this is a very long process.
Well, let's see. I went to Japan, went to Korea, went to Venezuela, went to Dominican, went to Mexico, Colombia, Panama. I mean, we went to all these places trying to set up a base. I mean, we worked out a deal with Japan.
So this is for player development and scouting?
Player development and scouting, setting up the scouts. We had to run the expansion draft. If someone called me and said, hey, we want you to run the expansion draft again, I'd go, I'm out. Almost died.
Really?
That's the hardest I've ever worked in my career. But I didn't want to disappoint them. They had stepped out on us with 2 years before because they thought that we could set all this up, and we did. And we left no stone unturned.
Real quick, how does an expansion draft work?
Well, we had that time we had 35 picks.
Okay.
I did the math. Each pick was worth about $3 million by what Jerry had paid for the franchise. So basically you had a protection list. Let's say you're the Cleveland Indians. You had a protection list. You got to protect 15 players. And after each round, you could draw back 2 or 3, I forget, and put 2 or 3 more on there. Let's say we took Cody Allen with the first pick. Well, now they can put 3 more guys on there. And if I took you with the first pick, then Cleveland's closed out the whole first round.
Okay.
There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of stuff going. I could tell you so many stories in that draft room. We made a trade for a guy. It was, remember Felix Rodriguez, Fifi, hard throwing right-hander closer for the Giants. He was a catcher, and the Dodgers had converted him on a backfield over in Boca Chica, Dominican, and we had heard about it and watched him. He was throwing 100. No, they didn't think anybody knew about it, but a GM called me, pulled me out of the meeting, said, "Hey, this was 2 weeks before the draft." He said, "I'll let you take any guy on our expansion unprotected list and trade him for him right now, and we get to pick who you're going to take from us." In other words, he's banking that he knows his players better than we know our players.
Okay.
So I went, let me go back to the room, and I'll never forget Eddie Durkin had Cincinnati. I already gave it up. And I go, "Eddie, anybody with Cincinnati you'd love to have right now?" He goes, "I only got one player I want in the whole draft." Well, he called him Fifi, Felix Rodriguez. I said, "Well, if I could deliver him right now, you want him?" He goes, "Yeah." Back in, I said, "All right, we'll do it." I got the player. And then he was going to, now this is all illegal. You can't do this. So I knew that he couldn't go give it up.
Yeah.
Because it would come down on him too. So I figured I could take whoever I wanted to in that draft. What's he going to do about it?
Yeah.
So we get the player, and he was ticked. He goes, "As a catcher?" And I go, "No, we're going to take him as a pitcher." He goes, "Who you got down here? Who's been looking at this?" We had a guy that was up in the coconut trees watching him throw on the side. Mel Didier. And
Mel Didier.
And
God
Mel
rest his
was the
soul.
one that was watching him. And he was one of our expansion draft scouts, who then I made the farm director. He was a great farm director.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a guy named Scott Winchester or somebody we had to take for him.
Yeah.
Well, our people said, "So you're going to take him with the first pick and satisfy the trade?" I go, "No, we're going to get people we want. Damian Miller we got, and Dave DeLucci, and first round gets
Y'all took Damian Miller in the expansion drafts?
Yeah. Knocking on the door. But I wish I could tell you why we took them. Like, we got through. We took them, a lot of it was makeup.
Yeah.
A lot of I knew DeLucci, and we traded 27 of them the first year. I talked to the Rockies and the Marlins, and one thing they kept telling me was, don't fall in love with expansion draft players. You're going to find out why they were available. So we had like 4 or 5 keepers, and we found out who wanted Kareem Garcia. We got Luis Gonzalez with Kareem Garcia. But
that's wild.
The whole dynamic of that draft, though, if someone called and said, "Hey, would like for you to run it again," I go, I'm telling you, when it was over and we started playing, it was like stealing compared to what we were doing there. We're in Yuma, Arizona. First spring training we ever had it was in Yuma. You ever been in Yuma, Arizona?
No, I haven't been to Yuma.
That was, we had 30 players in our first camp, and 6 of them played in the big leagues. Rod Barajas.
Yeah.
Different guys played in the big
How do
leagues.
you go from all this chaos you're talking about, expansion draft?
Well, you can know too much too, Kev. You can know too much.
You say after the first year you trade 27 of these guys.
I think it was something like that.
And then you go out and have a 100-win season.
Yeah. We had the biggest turnaround in baseball history. That's probably one of the things I remember and real proud of, because, we turned them over for proven Tony Womack. We traded for Tony Womack. We traded for Matt Williams. Okay. We signed Steve Finley as a free agent. We had Travis Lee in the draft, and we rebuild Durazo we'd gotten from Mexico. Damian and Kelly Stinnett were expansion draft players. We got pitchers. We traded, we signed Randy Johnson, but we had we got 2 pitchers out of the expansion draft. Brian Anderson, left-hander.
Yeah.
A guy named, what was his name? Some Omar Dahl had a great career for us. Mark Connor saw him. He was a left-on-left guy in the States, but he would go to Venezuela every year and cut him up as a starter because he would throw his changeup there. He would never throw his changeup left-on-left back then. And Mark said, "Hey, this guy can start." I go, "Really?" So we took him. Everybody said, "Boy, you're going to relieve him?" I said, "No, we're going to start him." That was come off a guy with a feel, knows the changeup and everything. But then we traded for Kurt Schilling, who was hurt at the time. And I remember,
is this in 99?
Yeah. The GM goes, why Schilling's hurt? I go, "Yeah, if he's healthy, he's not available.
That's
He's
true.
being traded because he's hurt."
Yeah.
I said, "Let's get him healthy and it'll be worth it." And we traded Travis Lee and some other guys for him.
He was with the Phillies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but Kurt was the first guy I saw really into analytics on the bench during a game.
Really?
He had a notebook on everything and how he pitched guys. And if I had to win one game out of all the pitchers I ever had, it'd be with Curt Schilling.
Well,
That's a
I want to
huge
I want to
statement
spend
right
a little
there.
time right there
And I
real
had some
quick.
great ones.
Yeah,
too.
you did.
Kurt never was too. The moment never got him.
Dang.
He welcomed the moment of being put on the line, of letting it all hang out. And he would try to see how long he could pitch with his fastball, how many innings.
Yeah.
And he would, he said, "Hey, I got 9 pitches." He'd do the balls in the batter's box in the strike zone. And if he got through the first three innings, maybe 4, and had never thrown anything but a fastball, it was over. Because as soon as you started figuring it out and he could break out some other stuff.
Splitter, yeah.
I mean, you managed for 22 years. You've been in baseball your whole life. You know what a Hall of Famer looks like. Pound the table for Curt Schilling, because obviously he gets a bad reputation because he wasn't great with the media, and he may have said some things that are controversial that shouldn't really factor in a decision if that person is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame.
Physically, statistically, whatever, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So why is he not in?
Yeah.
You just answer the questions.
Yeah.
What
you don't
else?
have to be liked to be in.
No, Curt Schilling, he's the epitome of what a Hall of Fame pitcher is about. Now, listen, we won't start nitpicking about what you may agree or not agree with. You want to go through the roster of the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
You want to go through there really and go over the whole resume? So be careful about casting. And there's, I know Curt, competitive wise and teammate wise, he was great for Randy Johnson, because he would pitch a shutout or come out of the game 7th. He'd walk by Randy and go, "Top that one tomorrow, bitch." And Randy would just like this. Randy's the only guy that I'd go to the mount. I'd say, "That's it, Randy. You got 190,000 pitches." And he goes, "Who you bringing in?"
Yeah.
Goes, "I know, I'll finish. If you're bringing that guy in, I'll finish it."
You
He's
know,
the only guy that shook off a throw over. He'd go, "No, that guy can't steal home. I ain't wasting time throwing the ball to first base."
I've heard that Randy, he was one of the guys that I think he had coined the phrase "jick," like the just in case guys.
Yeah. Well, you know what I did?
Go ahead. You ain't bringing in a jick, are you? Yeah, something like that.
Well, Curt Schilling said it was the greatest spring training move ever made. After a while, Randy didn't want to hit. He didn't want to bunt. He didn't want a PFP. He was just, and I go, "Randy, here's the deal." I said, "Just go home. And on the day you throw on the side and the day you pitch, I always schedule it where you're pitching up in Phoenix." He lived in Phoenix. We were in Tucson. I said, "Just go home." Curt said it was the greatest. He said, "Spring training picked right up after that." He said, and he was great. And years later, I think he's turned into a really good friend of people. But Randy just had this, not fear of failure. But he was miserable in spring. I mean, he didn't want to do anything. I mean, the 2 days, the only thing that made him happy was when he threw. And I go, "Randy, I'll see you when we play up there, and find a mound, throw on the side. I'll send somebody up there, but just go on."
Yeah, that's funny.
I know you said there's a lot of things, you're talking about your wife charting games, and, we have phrases for him now, like analytics and all this stuff, but do you consider yourself, and I know you're a humble guy, so you're probably gonna answer no, but do you take any pride in kind of maybe spearheading the idea that you could win playoffs with 2 monsters? Because that's another thing I read online.
No, that's the whole thing. I've always said, I told Joe at the time with Schilling, I go, Joe Garagiola, I said, "Joe, if we win the 2 games that these guys pitch in a 7-game series with the off days, we're world champions."
Yeah.
You don't need 5. You do during the season.
Yeah.
4th and 5th, like if I'm going to look at your club, my club, I'm going to look at your 4th and 5th starter, your non-closer, non-setup relievers, and your 7th, 8th, and 9th hitters. And then I got an idea how we stack up. Because what allows you to really have longevity in a great season is your 4th and 5th starter, your non-closer, those guys, and your 7th, 8th, and 9th hitter. That, when you got those lineups where you can't breathe,
yeah,
you got an extra torque every pitch. That's what Schilling used to talk about Colorado. It wasn't that outing. It was the next outing, because I had to torque every pitch there. I had to throw my best slider there. I had to throw my best, and it just worked. He said, "I was so sore for my next start."
Yeah.
It wasn't that one. But no, it was, Schilling was special. He and Randy and that group. We had a guy named Armando Reynoso. We had good pitchers.
Did you have Rick Helling there too?
No, we traded for Matt Manti that year too.
Okay.
He was Danny Plesac. We had him as a left-on-left guy at the end of his career. Manti was beauty.
So you win your second award, Manager of the Year.
Not with Arizona.
You didn't win one in
Arizona.
Arizona.
It's funny? Out of the
because
one,
you went from
I'm gonna tell you two things
You
happened.
didn't win the Manager of the Year.
Two things happened in Arizona. One, I lost my naivety. First time when I got let go there, whatever you want to call it. I do this thing at a banquet. All the different ways they say you've been fired without saying the word. We're moving in a different direction.
Yeah.
We're not renewing there's about 10 of them.
Yeah.
But that one, like when I got all the things that I found out later were going on behind the scenes, I was like, that was happening? That guy, that radio announcer or TV guy was doing that? What else was going on? I didn't realize all the stuff that was going on, because when you're successful and then things kind of go a little, we finished, I think we won 80-something games the next year. We had a bunch of guys hurt and whatever. They're all excuses, play better. But that one, I went, wow, all that's going on behind this. I thought we were all pulling in the same direction. And also, I think the Manager of the Year thing, I think I finished third or fourth because.
And you said it was the largest turnaround
in baseball history. And that one.
What did you guys win the first year in the expansion draft?
I tell you what, we considered it a successful season. We didn't lose 100, and we didn't. That was one of the best years I ever had, not losing 100 with an expansion draft.
So
then we traded them off.
60 some odd wins,
somewhere
around there.
Just under 70.
Just under 70 wins, and then you go and win 100 games. So 30 plus games,
But
and you don't win Manager of the Year.
Yeah, that one I kind of.
And then obviously there's got to be a level. Well, you kind of express some of the stuff going behind the scenes. They let you go, they fire you, however you want to sugarcoat it. They go on and win the World Series the next year.
I was in left field announcing for ESPN.
Is there is there a bitterness? Is there a sense of, with everything that was going on behind the scenes, is there a sense of relief that you weren't part of that organization anymore? Or,
yeah, that's a great question.
And also, is there, we talked about your time with the Yankees. You get fired because you stand on principle, which means everything to me. When you have a man who's willing to obviously turn down a ton of money, his dream job, you're the manager of the Yankees, but you stand on principle because I'm not willing to fire these guys.
That story got around, and coaches, I had people standing in line to work because the job coaching is hard enough as it is. Now, listen, I'm gonna ask a lot of you.
Yeah.
There's going to be expectation, but there's one thing you can count on is my support behind the scenes. And you want to get to the point in the locker room where the guys, I call it sympathetic ears. You want to eliminate the sympathetic ears to BS. You want to get to the point where some guy thinks the coach is screwing him. I said, you got to understand something. I'll play an Idi Amin if it means I can win a game.
Yeah.
I don't stay in here at that and go, you know what? We would be a lot better with Kevin playing, but I don't like him, so let's don't play him. It don't work that way.
I've never understood.
I don't want to go to you and go, I want to get to the point in the locker room. I just want to finish before I forget. I'm too old. I go, hey, Kevin, this guy, he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it. Hey, you know what? Wait a minute. He didn't want to hear it. He's not going to give me, we call it something else, but he's not going to give us a sympathetic ear. If you get to that point where the player has to look in the mirror and say, play better, that you're eliminating those sympathetic ears, hey, yeah, they're really screwing you. Hang in there, buddy. No, they're not.
I've never, that stuff's everywhere. Like that stuff, it's pretty, but it's just.
These kids, you're coaching.
Yeah.
They go home and mom and dad tell them how great they are and how that ain't how the real world works, man.
Yeah, and I think it gets into that kind of narrative or that conversation about like the self-preservation, right? It's like the justifying, it's like, because I've heard it in big league clubhouses, I've heard it, in spring training when, cuts are made and all this stuff. It's like,
it's tough,
man. We're talking about $1 billion industry or $1 billion franchise here, multi-billion-dollar franchise here. Their job is to put the best product they can on the field. And you think the reason you didn't make the team is because someone doesn't
you know what
like
the trouble
you?
is, Cody, with that is that a lot of times GMs and front offices, like they'll trade for a player or sign a free agent, of course, and not run it by the coaching staff, whatever. And there's somebody else that's better than them.
Yeah.
But yet they want that trade to look good.
Yeah.
So, they don't want you not playing their guy.
Yeah.
So you're going, if you take a lineup card out of a manager's hand, then you might as well. Then the players, you got that's the last
Which
hammer
that's
you
what's
got.
happening in
The
today's
last
game.
hammer you got is the lineup card,
Yeah.
not hammer. It's just But if they find out that you have nothing to do with who's playing or the lineup card or the batting order, you might as well pack your bags and go home. It's a matter of time.
I won't ask you to name names, but like what percentage of big league teams right now are doing that?
I don't know.
You know?
I know that some of them might not say, "Here's who I want you to play tonight." It's, "Hey, tell me you're thinking about that. Have you ever thought about this? Or strongly suggest that this happen? Or what if this? Our this shows that this would happen. This should happen, or whatever." There's a lot of subliminal messages and everything, but and sometimes they're right. I always wanted to, hey, listen, I'm open to everything. Y'all open the door. I said, my door's not open. It's cracked.
Yeah.
It's open. Come on in here. And the guys out there say, listen, go on in there. But he's going to ask you one question. How's that help us win a game?
Yeah.
And if you can't answer that part of it, then don't go in there. If you're just trying to self-promote and have a shtick, hey, if you put your leg up on a chair and throw from the shortstop hole, you'll learn how to get on top. You've seen Jeff Fry's thing about hitting and stuff. I mean, there's so many gurus now that don't really have the player's best interest at heart. I see some of the unbelievable prices some of these guys are charging parents to work with their kids because you won't do it in the backyard and make time.
Yeah.
Or you think you don't know. Well, really and truly, you know about as much as that guy does. And they're charging you $100 an hour. And there's some good ones. Don't get me wrong. But there's some that are just soaking you guys. Trust me.
So you're calling the game for ESPN when the Diamondbacks
It's funny
win the
that
World
was
Series.
my moment. Was they win Game 7, and
is there and we talked about this
I'm
too.
pulling for them. I'm pulling hard for them.
We met yesterday, and we're gonna like go down the list of your stuff. But you've been in baseball a long time. Baseball has a way of everything coming back full circle, and there's this romance with baseball. The two teams that let you go, one you get fired or released off a principle, and then a team that you built from the ground up fires you for whatever reason behind closed door. Those two teams match up in that World Series. You're calling.
Let me challenge you. So you're going on the air. You think you can do it? Like I always say to myself, okay, here's a moment where not just every slap on every street corner can do. Can you do this? I mean, broadcasting and talking about that.
Yeah.
One, I had no ill feelings towards the Yankees or the Diamondbacks. It was like I was pulling for them.
Yeah.
I was pulling for the Diamondbacks that year and the Yankees the year before. And but life's too short to have those emotions, man. If you realize how lucky you are in your upbringing and the whole thing. But I remember after that game was over and I'd done it. I'd sucked it up and done the post game. I basically walked back to the hotel in Phoenix. Now, this city had just won the World Series and the place was exploding, so to speak. And I'm walking down the street, right down the sidewalk by myself. And nobody, they're all doing their own thing. And I'm just sitting there. And you think you're important? You ain't.
Yeah,
and it was a good experience for me.
We had David Murphy on here, and at the end of his episode, I think he said some things that I think has really helped me post career, because I haven't had a whole lot of time to kind of reflect on my career, and the way it ended for me was a little bit bitter, and I have some kind of resentment of maybe some of the communication that happened towards the end, and I felt like I just kind of wanted to go out on my own terms. I didn't get a chance to do that, and I wish more than anything they would have just said, "Hey, we're going to release you after today's game.
There's nothing worse.
There's going to release you after this game. Call your family, call your parents, call your brother, tell them to turn on the game. Give me that opportunity to have my last at bat." I didn't get that.
We would have thought of that. You got to think of that. You as the front office and the manager you should know that.
Yeah. And they knew. I mean, I was 11 years in. I was 36 years old. I wasn't having the best year. I was an extra outfielder. I was at the end of my road. I had battled, 4 minor league deals in a row to make a team. They knew more than likely that if it wasn't with them, it wasn't going to be with anyone. And I wish they would have given me that opportunity to go play one last time. But what Murphy talked about on here is, would it have changed anything? Is it going to change anything about the way that you feel about what you did and accomplished? And him saying that has allowed me over the last couple of weeks since we had him on to just kind of sit back and be like, does it really matter how it ended?
In
Would
the
it
whole
have
scheme
mattered
of,
if I would have
well,
got one more at bat?
do you
Would it have
think do you
mattered?
think your daughter cares about that one extra? But you would like to.
No.
You know what?
But I
The
was
hardest thing,
gifted 4 extra months of time with my wife and my kids at home, and it's been
you can't get it
I
back.
can't get that back.
I tell people one of the hardest things I've done in professional sports is when you have a star falling on you. We call it. Gene Michael used to tell me, never let a star fall on you. In other words, I had Palmero at the end of his career, and great career, but it was going the other way, and he was trying to get to 300, and we just weren't as good a team when he played. I mean, he was great, Hall of Fame, whatever. So, and that is painful for a manager because you want to give that guy dignity, respect for the things he's done in the past, may not be able to do every day anymore. So you got to stop and go, okay, how are we going to present this? I mean, my last day with the Mets was bizarre, but to this day, I just shake my head. But, Kevin, you gotta, I don't want to say let it go. There's things that you go, golly, what went on there? That wasn't very good. But you learn from them and you learn not to do it. You're going to get faced with those situations. You go, I ain't going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to treat that relief pitcher like that. I've been in, that manager. I don't get calls from anybody about, this new, I'm pulling for every one of the managers. I don't care what they're, but, I look at their background and go, okay, one of those guys, or he's one of these guys, or, it's fine. I was at 35 years, I had a lot of people shooting at me in the big leagues. Man, they thought I was trying to reinvent the wheel, and all we were trying to do was put people in places and do different things that but so I've been in their shoes. These young managers just starting out with not a big resume. I didn't play in the big leagues. So I had to do what? I had to outwork people, I had to relationship people, I had to develop people, I had to be good at other things.
Yeah.
What could I bring that every guy slapdick on every corner couldn't bring? Okay, what were you willing to do? Were you willing to be the first guy at the ballpark and the last guy to leave? And were you willing to, find out about Kevin's family and his kids and where he went to school, what their nickname, you know what it's like walking through a New York Penn League stretch line the first day and being able to tell, hey, how are the Hilltoppers doing this year? You got colors are blue and red or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they go, wait a minute, he's thought about me. He knows my background.
Yeah. Dude, that does, man. That makes such a huge difference. My dad, I learned this from my dad. My dad would say this, and I feel like this, I had a chance to play for a great manager in Terry Francona, and I feel like the one thing that he does more than you got to know the game, right? There is strategy involved.
Yeah.
There is, baseball IQ that's there. But more than anything, if you had to ask me, like, what was he doing that just blew everybody out of the water? Because I played for other managers too. And the one thing that he was supremely better at than anybody else that I played for was he knew people better than anybody.
The game's got a heartbeat. You got to understand the heartbeats. And a lot of time whose finger shakes when it's on the trigger and who doesn't.
100%. And he, he kind of, my dad used to say this all the time. He's like, man, people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
And so it was like, man, Tito did it and he was I got to see it where it was like, man, he would talk to you. He would get to know you. He would know
sincere.
who you are.
You can't fake sincerity in big leagues. We're around each other too much. You talking about 7 days a week for 7 or 8 months. I used to tell the guys, hey, we pick your friends for you. You can go pick your own friends now. But they'll sniff out a phony in a heartbeat.
100%. And then when you do have to have that difficult conversation where it's like, hey, Cody, I know you've been our closer, but we're going to go get this guy. And, I'm not saying you won't be our closer, but it could, it might hurt you a little bit in arbitration, whatever, but we need this guy. But
him thinking about arbitration.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't dare even bring that up or mention, but he's put himself in your shoes.
Yep.
This is a decision that affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you can't callously, that's why on cut day or whatever, I got to the ballpark, I shaved, I showered, I put on a clean shirt because I didn't want that player to walk in and go, wait a minute, he's releasing me, trade me, whatever, or send me down, and he looks like he's hung over and looks like bad. I tell people all the time about your presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, you travel lately, they're wearing pajamas on a plane. Give me a break. Where's your mom and dad? Anyway.
Yeah.
But I just go, you got to make them think that you've thought this through. We're not just pulling stuff off. Hey, Cody,
But ultimately, when he has that conversation with you, like I'm like, Skip, I am 1,000% on board, because I know that your job is to put this team in a position to win ball games, you know, in the best position to win. And if that includes moving me around, then I want the same thing, because I do know that you do ultimately
But
care
that's
about
why
me.
you were there to start with, because he knew you brought that mentality.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. I've had guys just the opposite way, and you know, you run into them later on, and when they kind of see the error of their ways. But what's the old expression? If you tell the guy the truth, you know, he'll be mad, but he'll eventually get it. If you lie to him, they'll never forgive you.
Yeah.
And it's tough sometimes to be honest.
Where do you think the difficulty in the game is? Because I feel like the last couple of my years of my career, that was the most challenging thing for me. And granted, I wasn't a
Was what?
superstar, so I don't feel like you said, you talked about the falling star. It's hard to have
Yeah.
that conversation. But at the end of the day, regardless of my baseball resume, what I am as a human being, and I'm a man, why is it so difficult to just have open and honest communication from the very top level to the manager to coaches? Because
Well-
I have a little bit of bitterness at the end of my career, and not just with my time with the Rangers, but even dating back to that. You go through this process of free agency and you get on the phone with people and they tell you these certain things that you more than likely you want to hear,
Yeah.
right? And you get sold on this idea, and then you show up and it's totally different. And ultimately, more than anything, I'm a human being. I'm a man. Like, you can just tell me, like, hey, either you're not going to make the team or you're going to make the team,
That's
or
right.
you're worth this or you're not worth this. But
That's why I love
it's
Max
always
and
this
Tony.
sugar coating to get you in the door, and then they pull the rug underneath your feet, and you want to know why people get upset in the industry and why there's a lot of people that are angry out there.
I would always end a conversation in spring. Well, listen, you're going to think about some things when this is over and this conversation is done that you said, I wish I'd asked him that. I said, come on back. I'm going to be here. You go, hey, you know, I meant to ask you this. And this whole, because, you know, you're emotional and everything. I tell people all the time, I go, you know, I always love blunt players. Like Max Scherzer's one of my favorites. And I was told, boy, you're going to have trouble with him. It was just the opposite. Max, you could be blunt with, and I could be blunt with him. So you got to kind of pick who you can be. And I don't want to say sugar coated, but you can't go right to the, you know, but that's a skill, talking to players. And everyone's different, but you got to be, you know, do you really want to know the truth? Now, just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. This is what I think from watching, and this is what we think. But, you know, you can prove us wrong, and I'm just telling you what's being said. But so, like, I think I know you would love bluntness. You don't want something sugarcoated and, ooh, we got him out of my office. Ooh, okay, great. Now what's really going to happen? No, tell me.
Yeah.
You know, I had a guy, remember Steve Pierce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love Steve Pierce.
6-year free agent. Nope, we got him. And he was just hanging on. End up being
Dude,
MVP.
he can hit.
Oh, Steve's a guy.
World Series MVP.
Once you're around Steve, you love the fact that you got what. But we had to do a deal where we had got caught up with pitching. And they said, well, I wish we could do this, but we can't. Like, you're not doing a good job back then if you can't get them, have to change at least 2 things because something you did to take advantage of. So I call him in. I go, Steve, here's the deal. They said, oh, I can't. I said, let me talk to Steve. I said, I need you to release you for one day. Put you on waivers, whatever. He was like, what? Well, I said, listen, I need a pitcher for tomorrow. We need a starting pitcher. There's no way to get him here unless we cut you. But I promise you, you're going to be back on the roster the next day, and we're going to give you a raise. And he's like, wait.
And if you know Steve Pierce, he probably looked at you with the biggest eyes, like it went right over his head.
Oh, he did. It did.
He
Steve,
probably need an adult in the room, right? Like,
I said,
can I call
adult
your
beverage.
dad or your agent or
So
something?
I go, but Steve was, he goes, you know, Buck, I trust you.
Man.
If you're telling me, and I'm going, now, let me tell you, after this was over, I went to the front office and let me tell you something. I said, if this doesn't come to pass, I said, it ain't going to be good. So basically, he did what was best for our team, gave us a starting pitcher for the next day. He didn't take offers from other teams because everybody was after him. He just sat there and came back to us, and we signed him for, you know, $50,000 raise or something. And later on, we were on the plane or something. He goes, Skip, I got to tell you, you know, Steve, he goes, whoo, my wife was not happy with me. She goes, what? What are you? Released for a day? How's that work?
You know, and I'm sure he's probably got his agent in one ear saying like, "Hey,
Oh, without a doubt.
man,
And
you know,
Steve
these teams
finally,
over here."
he came
like-
back 2 or 3 times. He goes, "Wait a minute, Buck. Explain this to me again."
Man.
And I'm going, Stevie, he's gonna have to trust me. Here's the deal. If it doesn't happen, I will pay you out of my own pocket, and you can go sign with somebody else.
Dang,
He came back again. No, wait.
that's awesome.
I want to get to Baltimore because that's where I remember you the most and competing against you most. And me being with Toronto, we had some pretty memorable games. We had some moments that
It's
I
fun.
want to get to, but I don't want to skip over your time with Texas because you won another Manager of the Year award there, and you also were there for the beginning of guys like Teixeira and Kinsler and Michael Young. Comeback guys immediately,
Oh,
like
yeah.
you knew.
We couldn't go forward. Well, Kinsler, we brought him over to as a JIC, and I've been watching this guy. He was just a little short as a short.
Did Texas draft him?
Yeah, they took him out of Missouri by way of Arizona State.
Yep.
Not that I remember, but I said, let's try second base today. You ever play second base? But
Was he a shortstop in the minor leagues?
He was a shortstop in minor leagues and college, but he just profiled as a second baseman. But Ken's, I loved him. But we had Palmeiro. We had what's the kid's name?
And this is post A-Rod. This is the
Gonzalez.
year
Adrian-
after Rod.
We had Adrian Gonzalez,
No kidding.
Mark Teixeira, and there was another one. Oh,
Chris
Carlos Pena, and Palmeiro. So we had to pick which one to trade and which one to keep. Carlos, we traded, and Adrian, we ended up trading, I think, and we kept Teixeira. Teixeira was a third baseman at the time.
Okay.
Not a very good one.
Yeah.
And we moved him across the diamond. And I remember Mattingly years ago, I saw JT Snow was going to take his place. And I saw Donnie put his arm around him on the backfield. You're going to take my place one day, kid. I'm going to help you with everything. And I told Palmeiro that story with Teixeira. Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
You know, because he looked at him as too much of a threat to his time there. And but Mark really learned from that experience, and we stuck with him. And he was, when the Yankees called me about whether or not they should sign him or trust him, I said, listen, he's going to post up. He's going to take care of himself. You're never going to have to worry about him off the field saying something stupid. He's going to eat an energy bar in the 4th inning with 2 outs. He's going to have a bottle of water in the 5th inning at the end. You know, it's like this. And whatever you commit to him, you're going to get a return. And Mark was that way. But that group, Michael Young, Hank Blaylock.
Those guys were some
Should have been, could have been.
Those guys were some dogs too. Like they just
Jerry
played
Matthews
hard.
Jr.
Dude, man, yeah, one of the greatest catches
Kevin
of all
Minch.
time. Kevin Minch.
Dave DeLucia was on that team. A little short pitching, but we tried. That was fun year though, because it was, you know, playing day games there, the 100 degrees.
It would beat you down.
It's 95 at midnight, you know.
Yeah.
But
So what was you win the Manager of the Year, second year, fired, let go, stepped down, however you want to call it, 2 years later. Was there things behind closed doors that didn't happen, or just once again it just
we've got a new, you know,
was that the
John
ownership group
Daniels
change?
came in?
pardon? John Daniels came in. He was already there. He was in my office every night after a game. We'd talk baseball when he was assistant GM. But he wanted to bring in his own manager. Wash came in.
Was that when? Were you there when the ownership changed? Because there was a year when like Nolan Ryan.
That was right after. That was
right
after. And
okay.
you know, we had I signed an extension over in Dominican at some guy's. Oh, that's another story for another day. I went to Mr. Hicks' funeral not too long ago. Passed away. He was great to me.
Yeah.
But no, I had some good time. John Hart was great.
Yeah.
JD, you know, he had every right to bring in his own manager, and it worked out well for Wash and everybody. You know, that's why I say, like in Arizona, I mean, and with the Yankees, Joe Torre got to get exposed to how good he was. He was really good at playing a good hand well.
Yeah.
And I look at all the people that got these opportunities. You know, it was Wash, it was whoever. You know, I can't even think who took my place in Baltimore. I was
Hyde.
Brandon Hyde.
Brandon Hyde.
Yeah.
I really don't know him that well, but he, you know, he don't.
And then who
you
was
don't
in?
dwell
Who was
on
in
it.
Arizona?
Bob Brenly.
Brenly.
Yeah, I was thinking mustache. I was like, who was it? We won't go there. We won't go there. But I want to get into.
I think he stayed there 1 year or 2.
I do want to get in.
yeah.
I do want to get into your years with Baltimore because
That's
that's
fun.
how I remember you. We competed against each other a lot, And I don't know if you remember this because we overlapped on
Let me
foul
say this about
territory.
Kevin. I love guys that didn't fraternize and didn't kiss the other team's butt. Like you see this love fest in center field pregame. I remember a manager used to make them run out towards the gaps so you wouldn't cross over.
Yeah.
Used to be you got fined for that. There was a fraternization police. One of the umpires would sit in the stands and write everybody up.
Really?
But it's like Jeter and those guys. I'd go, it's like this. You go, how you doing? That was it. You know, maybe it was the way we were brought up with the Yankees. You didn't suck face with the other team, trust me. But nowadays, it's a love fest out in center field. And
See, he knew where I was going because he knew where we were going
No, I
because
didn't. I
the
didn't.
first time I met him in person, and I don't know, maybe we crossed paths when we were playing, but once again, we weren't fraternizing with each other. But that was the very first question I asked you when we were on foul territory. I said, I was in Toronto for 5 years. You were there the entire time you were there. You would always be out on the field with your fungo. And I joked that you never used it. You just stood on it.
I did.
But I said you never.
Well, before you got there.
But
the
you
game.
never said hi, how you doing? And you explained it to me, and you just explained it to our audience that you just came up in an era where
It doesn't
you
make
just
what's
didn't
right or
fraternize.
wrong.
Yeah,
It doesn't. You know, I'm not going to be the old guy on the front porch screaming at the kids out in the lawn, playing on the line or whatever. That's just the way we're a product of the way we're brought up. It's the same thing with home run celebrations, whatever. You know, I was taught to act like you've hit a home run before, and by the grace of God, you might do it again. I remember a kid, I go, hey, congratulations on your first home run. He goes, that's not my first home run. Well, it sure looks like it. It's okay. But here's what happens. When somebody hits a home run, they do all this stuff, and that's fine. I just go like this, Kev. I look down the dugout, and I look at the players. And if it's not important to them, and it doesn't bother them at all, then I go, because it's their game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, hey, you're supposed to be mad because the way we were brought up in our game, that's stupid.
Yeah.
You know, it's their game, and whatever. Do I think they look ridiculous when they're down 13-2 at second base with hook 'em horns and all this stuff? Of course they do, but that's the way they were brought up. I mean, heck, you see it in 7-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
I mean, my grandson scored a goal the other day, and I thought he was going to rip his jersey off running down the field. But you know, what are you going to do?
Is that also why you wear the stirrups all the time too? That was just kind of the way you
I
were
don't.
brought up?
That's just the way I got dressed. I mean, with the Yankees, every spring, one coach got picked to stand up on the picnic table in front of 150 players, and all you had on was your skivvies. That's it. You showed them how to put on the sanitaries, 2 of them, stirrups, garters, how to fold them, how to blouse your pants. Y'all know how to blouse pants?
Yeah.
See, that's okay though.
No,
You
they
had to
just-
put them
they-
on, then you pulled them up where they bloused properly. Everyone
I just
had
got
them the same.
shorties. I just got the shorties made
Yeah,
now.
and then
right?
you had to have sleeves were either here or here, and if you had them here, you had to hem them so they didn't get tattered. How you wore your hat. This was Steinbrenner and everything with the Yankees. So, you know, I remember one year I got picked to do it, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I've got to stand up in front of all these guys with my drawers on. And that's, hey, how to tie your shoelaces, black, not white, shoelaces, belt, how you wore your belt. I mean, everything. But when we were on the field, it was a team.
Yeah.
Now I see these teams wearing all black uniforms and their colors aren't even black. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is that all about? I guess it's marketing and money and sales, but I don't know.
Follow the money. Follow the money,
I
Buck.
guess.
So you take over a team in Baltimore, 14-year losing streak, correct?
Mm.
And in 2014, you're the AL Manager of the Year again. You win the AL East. And we talk about how things kind of come full circle. You play in the inaugural wild card game against your previous team.
Yeah.
How was that? What's that
You know,
moment like?
I
Is
gotta
there a
tell you,
sense of
it was-
satisfaction? You've obviously been very humble and gracious and say you don't hold grudges.
That one was
You're a
good for my,
competitor.
and that was good for my family. They enjoyed that.
That was good for
Okay. Because we lived there. Okay. And I've got a picture of my daughter and son and my wife outside the locker room afterwards. And just from that team, when guys start coming together and they start feeling it and they know that they're getting ready to start competing, and you take a lot of bad times, and now here comes the other part of it. You know, there's no expression. Bill Parcells, they're in a snowstorm in a big game, and they go down the field, don't throw the ball, and punch it over. And he comes over, and all the linemen are sitting there. You know, the smoke, the steam's coming out, and he goes, "That's why we lift all those weights. That's why we go through all those tough times for that right there." So guys starting to get that. When we would do something great, I'd love to just get in front of the dugout where I can watch it. I want to see the fruits of their labor and see the looks on their faces instead of going out there and being a part of. Just stay there and take it in. So I took that moment in. It wasn't vindictive or me. It's just my family got a lot of joy out of winning that game.
Yeah.
And what were
As they should.
What were the 3 years, 4 years leading up into that? What was, obviously you took over a unsuccessful franchise in the last 14 years.
That was a little down. Everything's got a purpose. I spent a lot of time on the air. Really helped me with the media through the years. I tell people, it's like I told Tony Vitello, I said, listen, you're getting ready to do it twice a day, February until October.
Yeah.
Every day. Pre-game, post-game, pre-game, post-game. And the players are listening. There's so many opportunities for you to step on your tail. You gotta stop and think about the weight your words carry. That's one of the few things I tell players. Listen, think about how your words are going to reflect on your teammates and your family and the organization. And take a moment before you say something that you really don't mean. It's an emotion of a moment. And, I come back, it's like a 10-minute tape delay, and I'd see the players all in the training room watching my post game that's now playing live. So I said, there's an opportunity to really talk to them.
Yeah.
To deliver something, a culture of, what's the old expression? Be careful about telling truths that hurt innocent people. It wasn't that I lied. I just protected, hey, somebody's dog died that day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, hey, he didn't play well tonight, or he didn't play because, or, whatever could have happened, because you don't want to embarrass them. But you wear things. Your job as a manager, if you look up the encyclopedia, will say your job is to wear it. You got to wear some things, man.
Yeah.
And it's painful. You could say some things that would take the onus off of you, but you're going to lose the locker room. You're in charge of wearing stuff for innocent people that really, they don't understand now. You can be the best in the world. I used to tell the guys, hey, you're the best the world has to offer at baseball. Okay. And you're going to have failure. And those other guys that are like, when I first got to the big leagues, I was shocked at the lack of confidence of the best players in the world. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I was thinking about that thought, and then we moved on, but I think that's a great thing to talk about too. Is I think people outside of a major league clubhouse that have never lived it or been in it, and we were once kids, so we saw these people as superheroes, as superhuman. But when you've been around it pretty much your whole adult life, like you have and all of us have, baseball players and professional athletes are very insecure.
Yeah.
And they have a really good way of hiding it. But to your point of being a good communicator and learning people, like that is such a big part of it, is because I lived throughout my entire playing career. There was moments where I wasn't, but there was moments that the game got tough for me and my insecurities came out, right?
What
and
did it mean to you to have somebody walk by you and stretch and go, hey, Kev, do you know how good you are?
Yeah,
do you really know
I was
how
fortunate.
good you
I don't
are?
know what sort of relationship you had with him, but I was with John Gibbons for a long time in my career, and
Love John.
there was an earned respect there. I had to earn my place and I had to earn my grace with him. But it was probably after the 2015 season where I posted every single day for him, and he would come and ask me, "You need a day?" "No, I got you. I played through a broken hand. I wanted to be out there every single day." For a lot of other reasons, because I didn't want to get Wally pipped. I worked my whole life. I worked my ass off to be there. And I was always fearful to the last day I played. If it wasn't me, it was going to be someone else. So I would go out there and play every single day. But after that season, there was times that I struggled. And sometimes I needed that boost of confidence where he's like, what are you worried about? You're my guy. You're going to be out there. You know what? Actually, we're going to lead you off today. That's how much I believe in you. And I'm like, what, me? The guy who's 0 for his last 25, you're going to lead off? He's like, no, because I believe in you.
Mattingly did that to me with the Yankees. He's had the bad back. It was last year of his career, and he comes and, hey, man, you're taking a lot of trash. He says, do me a favor, just drop me down the order. I shouldn't be hitting third, da, da, da. I get up, close the door. I go, oh, you're going to tell me who to play and what batting order and where to play? I'd play with Donnie in minor leagues. I kind of used it the other way. I said, I'll decide where you're hitting. You know what you mean to our club? Hitting third, the presence and this, and what it would mean if I all of a sudden shit all over you and dropped you down and, da, da, da. Well, I said, you're hitting third tomorrow. Just be ready, unless you don't want to play. And then later on, we had the best September in Yankee history, still stands, because we had to almost win every night to get in the first wild card. Donnie came in and said, "Listen, I'm going for it." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I may make one swing, but my back, I got to start doing the things first base." So for a month, Donnie was the Donnie of old. And we got through with the playoffs in '95 in Seattle, back when turf was like this floor.
Yeah.
He came by me on the plane, him and Stick said, "Hey, can I talk to you guys? I want you to know I'm done." I said, "I can't do the things a first baseman for the Yankees has to do. And I want to tell you in advance so you can go get a player before everybody finds out about it. Because if they knew you need a first baseman, they're going to bend you over." And that's how we got Tino Martinez.
Yeah.
Because Donnie came on the plane and told us he couldn't even stand up on the plane. His back was killing him.
Jeez.
And he needed to be at home with his boys. And he said, but that's the type of guy that, you took some bullets for
Yeah.
and wore it because you knew what you were getting. Like to this day, Jeter talks about the presence of Mattingly is still there with the Yankees. Paul O'Neill, what he meant to Paul O'Neill, the example he set for Jeter and all those guys, Posada and Bernie. Bernie was getting picked on when I got there. He was getting hazed because Bernie was like Bambi drinking the water, and we protected him, and it just because you knew what a wonderfully skilled kid he was if you could just create the right environment for him to play. And so we made a lot of additions through subtractions over the years. Just say this guy's making somebody else's path tougher.
So another guy too that I want you to kind of pound the table for, Don Mattingly. You've been in baseball your whole life.
The Hall of Fame thing, don't get me started. But
I know
there's got to be a place for a Hall of Fame human being. Is he like purely stat up with everybody else?
But let me ask you about that, because I know the Hall of Fame is it's a very sacred place. It's the history of our game. It's the hardest Hall of Fame in any sport to get to. Should a player be not in the Hall of Fame because the statistics don't match up because he didn't have the longevity? But was Don Mattingly not the most feared and best player for a period of time when he was healthy?
But okay, so don't tell me how much you value defense if he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
This guy's the best first baseman maybe ever. Because the thing that separates first basemen is their ability to throw. A lot of guys can scoop the ball and catch a ground ball and have decent range, but can you throw? Keith Hernandez could throw. You think about the great first baseman you had, they could throw. They could throw the ball from first to third. They could relay a ball to the plate. They could make the good feed on a 3-6. And
when you're talking about, almost not reinventing the wheel, but when you have the luxury of being able to send a first baseman out to be your elite cutoff man on a ball down the right field line,
to stay at home in case the ball comes out clean in right field.
That was the biggest separator of some guys, and you didn't get a chance to manage him. He was in the minor leagues, I believe, when maybe you weren't in Texas anymore, Justin Smoke, but his ability to play first base allowed a shortstop to stay in his position. He was good enough to go out and make the cutoff guy.
Well, that's what gets me. People say, well, how are you going to run your relay? So it depends on the skill of the players.
Yeah.
It's not for them to adjust to me. It's for me to adjust to them.
Yeah.
Rundowns, pop flies and calls. Well, I want him to take that ball because there's an ensuing throw. But if not ensuing throw, it's your call.
So did you make that switch? I'm trying to think back. Did you make that switch when you were doing double cuts in Baltimore? You had Jonathan Scope at second base and JJ Hardy. JJ didn't have the strongest arm.
Right.
The guy was a friggin' vacuum cleaner.
But JJ would go, "You take it, John."
Yeah.
We used to call him Spalding because JJ would take infield the very first day just to send a message. Like, everybody would go, we had a player come over, Seth Smith. He was almost crying. "We're taking infield the first day." And Adam Jones was laying down the ground laughing so hard. But he and Markakis wouldn't tell him, and no, we're going to back off. He's just wanting to send a little message and check out if you're ready to go. But we'd take infield, and Chris Davis would hold his glove and close his eyes. And JJ with a 6-12 rotation, everything. But I could bring Manny Machado up to the big leagues a year early because I had JJ. JJ would go, "Hey, Manny, that feed you just made from underneath? Why did you throw it there? It's really hard to see the ball, the second baseman. You don't need to show everybody how hard the play was." I said, "It's okay to make a routine play routine." Like JJ was just so, I used to say he was one of the most stylish guys I was ever around. And Mattingly was too, because their substance was their style. They're just consistent, doing things right every day was so stylish.
Yeah.
It was
People go, "What are you talking
it
about?"
was the most frustrating thing in my career was hitting a ground ball to JJ Hardy because you knew you were out.
Yeah.
But since he didn't have the style and the substance with it, and he didn't have the strongest throwing arm, he gave you this glimmer of hope that maybe if I ran really hard down, I could sniff a knock, and every time it would be bang bang, you're out, and I'm like,
He had an
golly,
unbelievable
man.
clock. And I used to tell guys, good players have a great clock. We used to run infield with I hate to admit this. I got a God, I can't believe I'm telling you. I got a water polo clock from the Olympic team
Okay.
because I had to have something that would do tenths of a second
Uh,
and had to be waterproof in case it started raining. You couldn't just have, so we put this clock out on the field and we could set it on, like, if we want to do a fast infield, we'd set it on 4 flat or 3/8 sometime. Or if we want to really slow it down we'd go to 4/5. But it started out, I did it instructionally trying to slow some of the Latin kids down because they did everything so fast. And I wanted to show them how much time they had to throw. And we'd set that thing on about, average time in the big leagues that time was like 4.35 down the line. We'd set it on average time. And JJ could get it there a tenth of a second every time. It was not by fluke. He worked at it. Okay. And when we'd set it up to like 3.8 and everything had to go fast, like, Manny was great. Okay. Certain guys got exposed because I found out that through the years, big league players fail when they have to operate at a tempo and speed that they're not comfortable with. So anytime you can speed the game up on them, but JJ's clock never got out of whack. And he was so good for Scope and Manny. Like, we started working Manny out at third base a month before. Bobby Dickerson would go down and work him out at 2:00 in Bowie in Double-A. And everybody said, well, he's never played third base. I said, yeah, he's been doing it for the last month and a half. Y'all just didn't know about it. But if I didn't have JJ there, we wouldn't have brought those two kids up. But we knew that with JJ there, he'd put their arm around him and go, hey, I remember he told Manny, go be the second baseman. I'm going to show you what that feed looks like from a second baseman. JJ threw one down here and it went like this. And he goes, just put it in the box. JJ used to talk about put it in the box where I can redirect it and get it started. And we would do a relay drill in the spring where we'd put that clock at home plate and you say you're a veteran guy, you got to pick your infielder. Let's say you pick Bichette kid and Adam Jones picked Scope. And what you do is you put a ball in left center field. It's kind of a team building thing. And you put a clock and you go, and the clock starts. And who can get the ball to home plate? It's got to be accurate and it's got to be quick and efficient. Well, all the guys always wanted JJ, but he wasn't the strongest arm, but it was always accurate. Wasn't dropped. And watching that drill evolve and watch who they picked. One year, Manny didn't get picked. And he said, why no pick? And the locker room took care of it. Well, Manny, we don't trust you. We don't know if you're going to drop it. We don't know if you're going to throw it accurate. We don't know if you're going to throw a banana in there. Really, looking at who they picked was very revealing to their teammates.
That's a pretty organic way to get somebody to kind of be like, you know what?
I've
been talking to you for a year and a half about these submarine throws. So one thing I wanted to ask you too before we let you go, so we've talked about how long you're a baseball lifer, and we've talked about Manny, we've talked about Jeter. You've had all of these great players, and you've had a lot of them very early in their careers, like really as rookies. What do you think was who do you think was probably the most impressive? Maybe not necessarily physically, but they just had it. Like because obviously when Manny came up, like everybody knew, hey, like this kid is super talented. When Jeter came up, probably maybe not as prominent as Manny was, but who did you see?
Jeter made 60 errors in A-ball. I mean, I remember talking to the manager I knew real well. I took him to the big leagues with me. I go, hey, what's going on with this kid? I think it was 60. It was a lot. And I was like, holy shit, what do we got here? He goes, he's going to be fine. I go, what do you mean he's going to be fine? He said he's got this thing with his footwork where he drops steps and he does something with his feet because he had a little more time in high school. And And so Brian took him down the instructional league, and they worked on it every day. And every once in a while, Jeter would look over at me during, the first base and throws the ball, and he would look over and he'd go, and he would do his little drop step like he used to do. And this was when he was 37 years old, just fucking around with me. And, but he was another guy. We never talked. I would go, "Hey, Derek, what's up?" But I remember I told him and Posada, we took them with us in the playoffs in '95.
Okay.
But they weren't active.
Okay.
And I just wanted them to experience the playoffs and what that felt like. But I remember I called them in and I said, "Hey, here's the deal. We're going to keep you here and you're going to travel with us and be a part of this. But if I find out you're running the streets and you're messing around," I said, "you're going to be down in the instructional league." And the next day, Derek told me later, he said, "We didn't leave the hotel room for a whole week or two." He said, "We were so afraid somebody was going to tell you we were out running the streets."
That is hilarious. So that's another moment too that I think, we talked about like being on, like we talked with David Murphy about being the guy who made the last out or whatever, but that 95 team, you guys are in Seattle and you're on the opposite side of the moment that essentially saved baseball.
See, I'm glad you picked
in
that
Seattle.
up, because that's the one thing that made me take that, was I had more fans say that, we were fighting the persona with the strike and everything the whole year. And we had a defending team's mentality because we had the best record in the American League
in '94. Yeah.
And we had a defending champions mentality with nothing to show for it. So we had a lot of guys hurt, and we were getting it going on, 94 when they pulled the plug on us. I remember like yesterday where I was when Seeley came on. But when people come up to me and say, I was getting ready to leave baseball, but that 95 series brought me back. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever been asked that. And that makes me be able to take that series a little better. I just hope, I wouldn't wish on anybody getting on a plane and flying back from Seattle, landing in New York at 8:00 in the morning after Mattingly's just told you he's retiring, and, and all the emotions
Uncertainty
of
of your job potentially too.
Well, Steinbrenner comes in afterwards, and I wait. I get through with the meet. I get there, everything. I just close my door and put my head on my desk. I'm almost sobbing.
Yeah.
And I'm 36, 37, whatever, and I'm 38, and I don't know whether I'm, coming back or whatever. I knew how it worked there. The fans knew. I was there for 19 years. I knew the job description.
Yeah.
I never bought a house in New Jersey or New York. I rented, man.
Yeah.
Because I never knew when it was going to happen, but I was at peace with it because I knew he came back and tried to get me to come back, but that's a story for another day.
We had some epic battles. Blue Jays, Baltimore. I think it was, I wouldn't say it was quite a Yankees
Close
Red Sox rivalry, but the rules have changed a little bit now with disparity of the schedule and stuff. But we were playing each other 19 times a game.
Yeah,
we had guys. There was obviously a level of respect there.
How about the minor leagues that play each other 5 times in a row now? First of all, there's a fight by the third game.
Six games.
There's no way back when we played that if I played you 6 times in a row, there wasn't some shit in the giddy up.
Yeah.
Just something gonna happen. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had some epic battles. We clearly had. I don't think we had really any bench clearing moments where there's physical, but I know that there was obviously the Jose Bautista, Darren O'Day thing was a thing. I know Adam Jones and Jose Bautista had their issue. I remember when you had that young pitcher throw behind Jose's head. Part of the game. What?
I have never asked anybody to throw.
No, I didn't say you. I said there was a pitch that went behind his head, and Adam Jones and Bautista were getting into it. But essentially, that rivalry was developed out of your kind of beginning being with that organization, taking them from the gutters to a competitive team, Gibby taking over a team that had been successful. You, and from talking to you and obviously being around Gibby and the front office, they identified after that 2014 season going into the 15 season, yes, you have to have talent. You have to have great baseball players to win games, but you have to have great people. And you talked about addition by subtraction. That was the big thing that really changed from 14 to 15, where I was part of the team a little bit in 14, but 15, it was a new type of identity. We brought in the Josh Donaldsons, we brought in Russell Martin, but we also brought in guys like Ben Rivera and Mark Lowe and LaTroy Hawkins, where are they superstar players, but they fit the mold of what we were trying to build. The Kendrys Moraleses, the Justin Smokes, just high quality people. Troy Tulowitzki, and yeah, granted, superstar name, but we built a thing around having great talent, but also great people that were all pulling on the same rope. So that rivalry stemmed from two teams being very competitive at the same time, where the Yankees and Red Sox took a little bit of a step back. The Rays weren't quite there. We became the alphas of the division, and we were competing. And it kind of came full circle in that moment.
Tampa Bay too.
Yeah, Tampa was
That's
still
tough
there.
division, man.
Tough division, but I feel like the epitome of that rivalry came to a one-game playoff in 2016.
Oh, it was there anyway.
Yeah.
It was there anyway. But that whole thing, I thought it was healthy. I enjoyed competing. Some people shirk that. If you're doing something important, you're going to be critiqued. You're doing something that's important to a lot of people. So the competitive part of it, one of the first things I got there in 2011 in August. I didn't say a word. I just sat there and kind of made notes and whatever. And but I remember a point in 2011 or 12, we were at Yankee Stadium, and I remember asking the guys, "How long are you going to take this? How much longer are you going to take this shit?" The looking down their nose at you, and there's a way you can compete with those guys, but what are you willing to do that they're not willing to do? And I rattled off 5 or 6 things. We can be better at this than them. We can be better at this than them. We can out 6-year free agent. I remember I got our owner to give us more money to sign the 6-year free agent. There's no way that a guy should go to big league camp with the Yankees with a set team. They should be coming with us because we can out opportunity other teams. So we started getting those guys. We started getting Steve Pearce and Nate McLouth and those baseball players. I call them, if I say to you, Kevin Millar is a baseball player. Kevin Pillar is a baseball player. That's the greatest compliment I can pay you. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And the guys that are, they know who you're talking about. Some guys, what do you mean by baseball player? Well, you ain't one of them. Okay. So it's not, and sometimes I watch today because I don't get some phone calls sometimes about players I had. And I go, wow, they don't want that part of the equation. They just want that strictly analytical, sabermetric evaluation, because if you bring something that they don't bring because they haven't had the experiences you've had, well, they don't want that as part of the evaluation, and that's why they make a lot of mistakes on players.
You seem like a human being, a baseball mind, a manager that doesn't really look back. He is sound in his decisions. He is okay with the decisions he made. He doesn't hold grudges. Is there any part of you, and you know what I'm going to bring up here, the way that game ends with Zach Britton in the bullpen, is there any part of you that looks back on it and goes,
there's a lot more to that story.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more.
And I would love to hear it.
And I think,
but you're not going to hear it here.
I think to your point of a lot of the things you talked about is part of your job as a manager is to deflect.
You got to wear it too.
And to wear it, right? And maybe there was a circumstance where Zach Britton wasn't available or he wasn't healthy or these things, and you'll never admit that because part of your job description is I have to wear it.
Yeah, but you know what too is, if I had known the way everything was going to end, these people that go, "Oh, it never changed anything." Bullshit.
Yeah.
Of course you would have. If I'd known that little girl in the 3rd grade I picked on, whatever, I didn't, but I had to change that. We'd all change things if you knew they're going to, well, I don't like the way that ended, so I'm going to change it. But it's also part of who we are and how you develop and grow as a human being. You know what experience is? I go, listen, I did what you're doing. It ain't going to end well.
Yeah.
I've done that. Been there. I drank that extra beer. It ain't smart before a day game. All right. But, those things are part of what, and you have to wear it. And there's so many things that could happen during the course of 8 or 9 or 10 innings that make it not matter. And you can make 50 great decisions for 8 innings, and all of a sudden, what do they want to talk about? And when I'm on the air, I always go, first of all, there's a lot of things going on in the locker room and that dugout that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And you'll never know.
And he's not going to tell you, and you're never going to know. So first of all, I'm going to give it the respect of that. And all thing I'm going to do is give you his options. Here's the options he had. And why he chose this one, probably never know. But here's what he could have done. Now, it's up to you to decide what you would have done at home in your little basement with the lights turned out and punching a keyboard. But, I call them POP guys. If you put a lot of people in, especially some of the people you put them in a dugout in the 8th or 9th inning, ask them to make a 10-second decision, there'd be a puddle of piss around their feet.
Yeah.
The POP guys. There's some people that are, that's a comeback guy.
Yeah, and I experienced that really for the first time in my life this year, getting a chance to work with Sportsnet and get a chance to watch the Blue Jays playoff run. And I've been in baseball my whole life, right? I've been in that dugout. I've sat next to a manager. I've had the conversations. I've been an everyday player. I've been a bench guy. I know the conversations
I've asked
that
him.
go.
I turned to him. I go, "What would you do here?" And I've already put the sign on. I go, "What would you do here?"
Yeah, I've been there for those moments, and then this was the first time I was able to step back out of the dugout, watch the game from the press box, and the first thing I noticed was the game is so slow. Yeah. And then you become a media member, and you're supposed to like critique the manager or on the decisions that were made, and I'm like, I understand how it can be easy to do that because I'm sitting up there thinking like, why did he pitch to him? They had that guy in the bullpen. This guy's available. One, I don't have a pulse of the clubhouse, being a media guy, and I didn't go in the clubhouse.
Oh, they want me to go down and talk to the managers if I'm doing a game. I go, and I'm not doing that. They don't want me down there, and I don't want to be down there.
Yeah.
But I will also, as long as I do media, I will never forget how fast the game is when you're in the dugout, when you're playing. And that was the one thing that I prided myself on this year is there was some decisions made, and I get the little producer in my ear telling me like, hey, you got to talk about that. And I'll be like, I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it in my way. And it's not going to be negative because for the first time in my life, I can sit up here and be like, man, the game's slow.
Talking about, what's the, Greg's on? Jeff's on?
Yeah, Greg's on.
So I'll tell you, years ago, I was in Scottsdale with playing the A's. I think I was with the Diamondbacks or the Rangers. And they had a radio guy named Dave Soup Campbell for ESPN, did all their radio games. And I known David for we call him Soup. And he's in my office, before we go out. And I go, what are you going to do today? He goes, well, I'm going to watch some of your game, probably go home. Whatever. I said, come on, you can manage the game today. He goes, what? I go, come on to the dugout with me. Sit down. And I'll just ask you a question. Here's what's going on. You tell me what to do. Really? Oh, I'll show you how easy this is to do. He goes in there. I go, okay. All right, leadoff hitter. Okay, third base, close enough for the bunt. First base, back or in the seam. Okay, other way, this way. Boom, that's one pitch. Catcher, too far back in the box. Da, 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 da. First base coach, you watching him? Is he giving signals with the right-hand hitter? Or is it third base? I said, okay, that's 2 pitches. And after the first inning's over, and I tell him everything that goes through your mind, and there, he was like, I'm out of here. I go, where are you going? Are you shit me? He said, you're nuts. There is no way I can sit here. I said, that's all the stuff that you're like to this day. If I'm watching the first inning, I'm watching the 2 coaches to see if anybody's doing anything with pitches.
Yeah.
I can't help it. It's the way I was taught. There's so many checkpoints you go to, the bunt, after a throw over, a lot of first base coaches give away steal signs by their body language. That's so many different things. But Soup just goes, man, I'm out of here.
I feel like we could do this forever. But I do want to touch on kind of your last time managing. You get a chance to manage with the Mets. Mm-hmm. That's a year after I believe I was there. So that's the first full year of Mr. Cohen taking over the team. Once again, it sounds like a broken record, but you win another award there, another National League Manager of the Year. And
you know what they give that to, Kev? Let me say, they give that to the team that surprises the most. Okay, they give it to. Now let me finish. They give it to. You ever heard of Pacoda? Yeah. Every year they have this group that's supposed to be really good. Yeah. And I used to love in Baltimore because I always pick us last and we wouldn't finish. And they finally said one year, we're going to be good on all the teams. We haven't figured out what's going on in Baltimore. We knew what was going on in Baltimore. We knew players and people, but they don't ever give it to the guy here. So what I do, get dumb the next year? Why don't they give it back-to-back years? So it is an organizational who had the biggest unexpected year. So they have to go, well, it had to be the manager.
Well, except for the year in Arizona. You didn't get it
that
year,
one.
Right?
I was like, that one made me go, really? There's some political stuff involved here. I don't know what else we have to do. It was we.
Who did win it that year?
I don't even remember.
1999. We'll look it up.
I don't even know.
We got fact
I don't
checkers.
care. They probably deserved
So
it.
you win it there, and then the next year, the year doesn't go as well. A lot of injuries.
Yep. And we
And
traded
then-
away about half the team.
Yeah.
I was going to
I
ask
think we
you.
would have made the
I was
playoffs if
going
we'd
to
have
ask you
left it
too, and
alone.
I think I know this is true. But once again, not everything on the internet is true. You were once given the option to resign, or they said they were going to fire you, and you chose to get fired because you said you would never quit on your team. Is that true or
Well,
accurate?
that's somewhat, that's loose, but I would never let somebody else.
You would never
manage it.
walk away,
No, of course not. I mean,
especially after.
all the things you preach to them, and then you just go, oh, by the way, I didn't mean it. Come on, man. Are you wired that way? Come on. But it's not nearly as complicated as they make it to be, managing and coaching in the big leagues. Players, and they're still about the same. People say, oh, God, how's the game changed? I said, go down to spring training. It really hasn't changed. Now, the way they're running spring training now, a lot of people can't handle
I'm
the fungo.
so glad you said that because
Fungos, now they got machines.
You've been a part of this game. You've forgotten more about this game than most people will ever learn about it, right? And I will say, like, as players, like, there's a lot of changes that go on, on how teams value players or what they value or how they evaluate it and the scouting process. And like, it's a very fluid situation because of the amount of data and like the tools that are being used. But the one thing that never changes is the game itself.
Yeah.
But as players, it's so easy to get caught up in, especially, and I feel like when Kevin and I both kind of broke it, my first full season was 2013. I made my debut against Baltimore in 2012. And from that time to say like 2015, there was starting to be some conversation about some of the new age analytics and StatCast and all that stuff, especially on the pitching side, right? There's a lot of like,
hey, I never once in a while had to say, go play. Just go play.
And so, but it's so easy because once as a player, you're like, well, I'm going into arbitration or I'm going into free agency and they're signing this guy for this amount of money because he was able to do this really well but it's like, the game doesn't change. The mound is still 60 feet 6 inches from home plate.
That's my pet peeve about spring training. I love spring training. I love to teach. I love getting there early in the morning when the sun hadn't come up. You got a hot cup of coffee. I walk the fields when the sun's coming. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in bed at 8:39. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the part that you miss is the development where you can actually see things coming. And I lost my train of thought. I was going to tell you something earth-shattering, but I can't remember it now. I didn't.
No, but it's just like the game doesn't change. The game is always the game.
The spring, but I think the more it changes, the more it stays the same. You still got to do the same things to win, and you got to be careful when someone's got some stick. I call it. We used to. Wayne Kirby made up a T-shirt that all it said on was "I wash."
Dude, Kirby, first off.
So, he'd run it by me. I go, fine, Kirby. I said, but if it appears in a paper, it's you, not me. And all it was, hey, don't bring eye wash here.
Dude, he was a coach that, like, I didn't play for.
Yeah.
But, like, every time I'm like, dude, I would love to someday,
there's so many things like
play for you.
coaches. Like in spring training, we would run individual defense, team defense for hitting. And we had a pattern and everything. One day it was base run, one day it was bunting. It was, we'd change it up and keep it entertaining, sliding, whatever we did. But Curb, I would always say, Curb, you got the outfitters for 40 minutes now. This is going to be tough on you. He goes, it ain't going to be fucking tough. And I'd look out there and they were having the time of their life. They were getting after it, working. And I said, what happened? He goes, I told them they didn't have to condition today if we got after it because you were going to be watched. I said, I know it. But, instead of putting on your tennis shoes and going and running off a treadmill, hey, let's put our spikes on and run the bases.
Yeah.
Let's run the bases. That's what we do. We, oh God, my tennis shoes, I got to have my running shoes on inside. No, you don't. Put on some spikes. Let's go run the clay.
Man,
let's learn how to turn a base.
Dude, when baseball just stays baseball, there's nothing better.
Exactly. It's a pickup game. I my first year on an organized team was a Sandlot team. Got a T-shirt and a magic marker. I remember the first guy that got the marker got to pick what number he wanted on the back of the T-shirt. And we were only 6 guys in the neighborhood, 12, 6 on each team. So people go, Buck, how did you learn how to hit the ball the other way? I go, easy. The
There's
Sandlot.
nobody over there.
There's nobody over there. And if I pulled it, there was a creek bed, and the ball went in the creek. We only had one ball. You know, the game was over. So you're out. So you learn. Remember, you learn how to argue because, you know, out or safe, whoever argues the best. I remember I was like 7 and the ball gets hit. They weren't letting me play because I was too young. The ball gets hit underneath Miss Bondurant's porch. Goes up underneath. They said, "Hey, Showalter, if you'll go get the ball, we'll let you play." I ran over there. I didn't know. I go underneath there, and it's right in the middle of these 2 German Shepherd puppies. So I take the ball, pet the puppies. I'm crawling out, and Mama shows up. She bites me right underneath here, stitches, the whole 9 yards. I'm bleeding. I go home. I'll never forget. My mother's at the sink washing dishes, and she goes, so he takes me home. They stitch it, butterflies and everything. My dad walks through the door. Says, "What happened to you?" And I said, he says, "So what are you doing here?" I go, "Wait a minute." He goes, "You earned the right to play. Get your ass over there."
That's awesome.
So I went running over there with the Band-Aids. I said, "I'm playing." But that's how I learned to hit the ball the other way, was Sandlot. And you learn how to just, you know, we made the backstop. We made bases out of burlap sacks. You know, but it was fun. I can tell you every one of those guys' names on the team.
That's awesome.
And their nicknames. It was right. And when I saw the movie Sandlot, I go, shit, I've lived it.
Yeah, that was me.
I got 3 final questions for you. Quick questions. One, do you still want to manage?
I never say never. I'm gonna stay up at night about it. You know, and I don't know if the front office really exists today.
Or I guess the other question would be, we've kind of covered the span of your career. You've obviously done an amazing job of building teams, especially an Arizona team that didn't even exist. You built them to a championship team in 3 years. You took a Yankees team, the year you leave, they win. You did the same thing in all these other places you went. Have you ever considered moving to the front office?
Well, I basically, see, sometimes, like I said earlier, you can know too much. Like I've been a farm director. I've been a scouting director in Arizona. I've been basically ran an organization. I've been a manager on the field. I've been in Latin America, every country, and I've been to every Caribbean World Series country to understand. I tell people all the time, you want to coach and manage Latin players, you need to get your ass over there. Every country's different. Every Spanish is different. Cuban Spanish is different than Dominican. I mean, you got to understand it. And I knew all the bad words. I knew how to communicate in baseball language because I want to know what they were saying. But until you've walked a mile in their shoes, I mean, I've staked off a compound we were building over there and said, all right, put the weight room here, put the field here. And we had to stick the stakes in the ground in Boca Chica. And so, could I do it? Yeah, of course you could. But I don't know, the way that it works nowadays, I think owners are so intrigued by the purely analytical. That's the world they live in.
Yeah.
They live in that world. So they think they too can be a baseball expert if they understand all these numbers. So they don't understand all the things we've been talking about. They really go into making good decisions. You know, there's a few of them left, Dombrowski, and there's some of them that, you know, and that's why you can see in some of the moves they make, it's just, it's baseball. And now they got Preston Mattingly as their GM, who comes from really good stock. They'll be, I call it the 6th tool. They'll put stock in the 6th tool, not those 5 tools, the 6th tool.
Yeah. Do you think, was there ever a point like in between those stops as when you were managing, was there ever a point where you're like, you know what, like because I know now, but like in say in 98 or 2001, was it like, you know what, maybe I do want to take on a front office role. Maybe I do want to maybe aspire to be a GM.
Yeah, but you know, I've been on the field the whole time. You know, what's your best chance to impact lives? I tell people all the time, it's all said and done, it's Bernie coming back to you, or Jeter, or any of those guys years later when you gave them some tough love. You know, hey, there were times Manny didn't like me.
Yeah.
Okay. But now it's Pope Papa, and you know, it's I don't know. I think I love being on the field with the players in the grind, and you know, early morning spring trainings. But if they would let me just do players, you know, charge of player personnel and this and that, whatever, and the farm system and the way that's supposed to work. Yeah, but I don't, you know, dealing with arbitration and salaries and all this stuff. And I'll tell you who you can trust with a contract. You know, it's like, you know, I tell people all the time, I looked the other day, a team had 14 coaches, and one of them said field coordinator. First of all, the manager should be able, Someone asked me this year about going to spring training and running their camp. I go, wait a minute. If your manager can't run spring training, you got the wrong manager.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Second of all, and the player's going to sniff that out in a heartbeat. I said, instead of a field coordinator, what you guys need is a field coordinator, F-E-E-L.
Feel.
Coordinator of feel. You got to have some feel here. Okay, wait a minute. That might work for Kevin, but it don't work for him. And like Chris Davis, I'll give you an example. Years ago, he was having trouble in Baltimore. He was pulling everything.
Yeah.
He was just hooking and getting out. Even anything he got to, he couldn't keep fair. So, Jim Presley and I were going, I said, how this guy's brain works. I said, I'm coming out here to see it at 2:30 tomorrow. Chris comes out and I set up the screen right down the third baseline. Okay. And I had him stand in the box and I'm throwing the ball from halfway down the third baseline, 30 feet. So basically his brain, we just had to figure out some way for him to see mentally and physically the ball going out to left center field. And he couldn't pull it. Even when he pulled it, it was going out to left center.
Yeah.
And just something visually, because there's no way you can pull that ball. You can't get the bat through it. So he's hitting the ball out there time after time after time. And that night, he took off. Jimmy and I were talking later and over beer, and I said, ain't this some shit? He says, all these unbelievable ways of hitting coaches and this and that and that. Like, I got to tell you, when I got out of slump hitting, I got a duck fart somewhere.
Yeah.
I had a swing and bunt, and all of a sudden the ball looked like a beach ball. Unless you've been in the batter's box and know how that feels to go, okay, wait a minute, the baseball gods, I tell the guys all the time, the baseball gods will let you up, but you better be true to the game.
Yeah.
Because if you're not true to the game, they won't let you up. They'll beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So
gotta be living right.
It's
stay true.
You managed him, and he was a teammate of mine, Danny Valencia.
Yeah.
I took some stuff from him, but the one
let me
thing,
tell you what, he and I have bumped heads too.
I know, I'm sure you did. He bumped heads with a lot of people. Great guy, but the
talented,
one thing I took from Danny Valencia
should have been so much better than he was.
For sure. But the one thing he told me is there's two types of people in baseball: the ones that are humble and the ones about to be humbled. And I chose to be the one that kind of always leaned towards being humble because I knew how difficult the game was. I never really rode these roller coaster of emotions. If I was 10 for my last 12, I was the same guy as if I was over 12 because that just resonated with me so much because the game's so difficult. My last two questions for you. One's kind of not a serious question, but is there any truth to the fact that you didn't see a grocery store for 5 years because you were working 20-hour days?
It was more than 5.
Okay, so the internet.
I went in someplace with my wife not too long ago. We were married, it'll be 43 years in March. And she goes, how's this place look? And I'm like, wow, this is cool. It's cold over here where the produce is. It's kind of over here. And she goes, and we never eat out ever. Okay. She cooks and then we eat leftovers because she's such a good cook. So she's at the grocery store a lot. But the other day I went over there and all of a sudden the prices, I went, are you kidding me? I just spent $100 and you get anything.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I'm like, she goes, welcome to my world. And so, yeah, there's truth. I did go with a bunch of Latin players when their checks didn't show up. We loaded them up in the truck in extended spring, took them to a Publix and had them pick everything out. I got in so much trouble with the Yankees.
Really?
We took the credit card and paid because these kids were starving.
Yeah.
Something happened with their checks and Angela and I just loaded them up in the 2 vans, took them to Publix. Remember those honey bear squeeze things?
Yeah.
They must have got 100 of those. And we got vegetables and everything, and we're checking out. And it's like the Pied Piper with all these Latin kids behind us. And that's how we learned how to speak Spanish. And I learned about not rooming. I used to go, hey, you speak Spanish? We'll room you all together. Well, the Venezuelan, the Dominican, the Mexican, they have some different cultures. Some of them don't like each other. And I learned my lesson that way. And I go, wow, this is a little different. And I said, well, shame on you. I said to myself, grouping everybody together like that.
All right. Last question too. I believe you're eligible for the Hall of Fame next year. I think you are.
I don't know.
The internet's been pretty accurate on a lot of this stuff right now. Have you? Okay. Clearly you don't know.
And by the way,
clearly
all this stuff
you don't
is
know.
not my wife beating me. She's got a new puppy with teeth like razor blades. You should see my arms. Look at this.
Clearly you don't spend a lot of time thinking about it because
okay. Done.
you are eligible. What would it mean to you?
Not me. I don't. I haven't. Honestly speaking, do you think about it? I went into Mississippi State where I went to school. That one, that's pretty cool. You think about Palmero and Clark and Thigpen and Brantley and different guys. But when I see some people that don't make it, and I go, wow, they're so much better than me. So I don't know. I
mean,
hope I didn't say anything here that would jinx my.
I'll say that. I mean, I commend your humility, but man, like you've left a huge wake in this game, and the things that you did are still trying to be replicated.
You know what I found out through the years, guys, is that players talk.
Okay.
One thing I keep telling guys, you think I'm talking about team to team.
Yeah.
And there's certain reputations because there's no secrets in the game. If, I learned the most baseball probably from managers about what not to do. Like people say, who was your mentor or whatever? I said, I learned a lot about what not to do.
Yeah.
Man, there's a better way to handle that situation. Johnny Oates was one of the best. I was around Billy Martin. He took all the minor league managers and would bring them to camp every year, and we would follow him around from drill to drill. And this is how we want it done in Oneonta and Albany and Fort Lauderdale and Columbus. And we were all supposed to do things the way he wanted, rundowns and relays and everything. There was a continuity in the whole organization. But we were like little chickadees falling around the mother hen. And there were some nights with him on the road. It was challenging, but he was something. Brilliant baseball guy. Great feel for players and the flow of a game. And but I think through the years you listen to different players and coaches, but people don't realize how much players talk to each other. There's no secrets, especially when it comes to coaches and managers.
Yeah. Because I mean, those are the guys that they feel like are impacting their career probably the most.
I guarantee you, Tito at some point said to you, "Hey, I fucked that up."
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And if you're not willing to say that, and you're some authoritative and perfect all the time, I go, and I was talking to Scherzer a day or two ago about, I said, Toronto and everything. And I said, Toronto, good choice. They'll get you. And he talked about the letter his daughter wrote him. And I saw Max at the day after he pitched, he'd come into the stadium in New York about 11:30. And I'd be the only one there. I'd love getting there where I had time to work at my own tempo.
Yeah.
Because I knew at 2, 3 o'clock when the doors open, I was at their service. I had to be ready to serve their needs. But Max would get his kids and they would go out on the field and he would be Max the father.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they left, got in the car to go home, he became Mad Max at the ballpark. He would, some of my most favorite times, he'd come in a day or two after he'd pitch. He'd look around, run all the people out of my office, shut the door and goes, "What's up, bitch?" And just, we'd sit there and talk about life and about, what were you thinking last night with that slider? He goes, that was dumb. But he didn't have to be Max in front of me. We used to talk about dude wipes.
That's hilarious.
But I love the guy. But we had a pact. I go, listen, here's the deal. Everybody thinks we're going to bump heads. When you're done and you come off the field, and I think you're done, as you come down the steps, I'm going to stick my hand out. You shake it.
No matter what.
Now, if we're going to fight and we're going right up the runway, out of harm's way. I said, before the inning. But he used to have this thing where he'd do this when the last hitter, or he'd tell me, "Hey, I got 2 hitters. And if I feel good enough to go to the third one, I won't. But if I do that, have somebody ready." He'd come to me and go, "Hey, I ain't done too good. Listen, don't let me get too far here. It might jeopardize our chance to win the game." He had no ego. He just wanted to win the game. But he was awesome. Such a competitor. And I'd go, he said, "What do you need me to do?" He said, "I ain't got shit today. I know we're short down in the pen." I said, "Well, just take it, but I'm not going to let you die out there." I said, "Give me the thing." And he was a beauty, though. God almighty.
That's awesome.
Those guys like that. I had David Cohn. I had Jimmy Key, great competitor. Schilling and Johnson, Stottlemyre. Todd Stottlemyre. Oh, my God.
Monster.
Oh, my God. He'd come out here. "What the fuck are you doing out here?" One thing you know about pitching is you couldn't hit it. I go, "Okay, gotcha." Oh God, I miss that part of it. Interacting, it's just professional competitiveness. And if you take it like they're trying to, affront your authority, please. These guys can survive without you. That's what I've always kept in mind. They're gonna mourn you for about 5 or 10 minutes. They're gonna wonder who the next guy is coming in behind you to take your place and how it's gonna affect the career. Most of them. but I still get calls from different guys, and those are the calls I love. Is, hey man, how you doing? Like we went up for Adam Jones Oriole Hall of Fame thing, and the guys that showed up there, and we didn't even see the game. We sat up there and talked about. I mean, Bud Norris goes, "How did you pick me to pitch in the playoffs?" I go, I said, "Bud, you didn't know. I don't know how to tell you this, Bud. We didn't have anybody else."
Yeah. No,
Jim
I think
Johnson,
it's,
different guys showed up, and it was great.
I think it's a great like ending to it, because how we started this conversation is you asked us why we're doing this, right? And we obviously have our reasons we want to do it. Obviously, for the younger generation, we want to, allow people to see that there's different ways to get to the top of this profession, whether it's through playing, like you as a manager. But I think selfishly for us is you get a chance to reflect on your career, and you love the moments that you had. Do I miss competing? A little bit. I get my competitive fix through rec basketball and some other things and my kids and stuff. But what does everyone miss? Everyone misses being around the guys and sharing stories. And I think for us, I think I can speak for both of us, this kind of fills our cup in the thing that we really miss. Just being able to sit down and talk baseball and, the stories that happen behind and the conversations that's what I miss.
You want to be reminded that, hey, I don't have it wrong. I didn't have it wrong. Okay. What was really, I remember the people that impacted my life. I remember the people that had the guts to say no to me. My father had the guts to be my father, not my pal.
Yeah.
He said, okay, I can tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you I'm your father. And, he also, he was in the Big Red One Normandy invasion. I mean, that generation, the infantry and the army, and he and his three brothers all went over and all made it back. But he didn't talk about it until the last year of his life. I mean, he died 2 weeks after I got the job managing the Yankees. I got this great letter from Steinbrenner. I got one from him when my dad died. I got one when I left the Yankees. Basically, just as classy a letter as you ever see. I saved it. I got a telegram from Thurman Munson when I broke his record. I kept that. Certain things I've kept through the years. Thurman was special. He was a guy at Yankees.
Yeah, I think back when I think I identified it pretty early in my career that I wasn't destined to be a superstar or all-star or anything.
But you were in your own way. How many years you played in the big leagues?
11.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, it's rare that's going to be.
But to my point is, I started to understand as my career went further and further, people are not going to say, hey, Kevin Pillar had X amount of hits, home runs, this, and this. The thing that I took a lot of pride in is when I announced my retirement, my teammates, my coaches, the people that I was around, the things that they had to say about me, being like, hey, I'd play with you any day. I love being your teammate.
But they could trust you. It's about trust.
And that's all that was ever important.
And that's what I told people. I said, listen, when you walk through the door, like nobody ever said to me that Pete Alonso was in a bad mood today. Hey, we stay away from Pete today. He's in a bad mood. Max Scherzer. They were the same every day, and they needed that from a manager. And I told our coaches, don't ever walk in here like he's having a bad day. You are not allowed to. You've got to be a consistent force in these guys' lives. Every day they walk in there, there's one thing they can count on you. They can count on you. Count on is you. Bringing what you bring. Okay? And that can be why I can't get from every guy on every street corner. Can you bring that? Wayne Kirby brought it. Joey Cora brought it. Brian Butterfield brought it. I can go on and on. Those are the guys that I fought for, those coaches, because it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of, there's times when I would close the door behind closed doors with them and we could commiserate our frustration. But once you walk outside that door, man, you're on. When you go, I used to tell the guy with the Mets, they'd be down there and I go, I got to go. They go, where are you going? I said, I need to walk the locker room. And they go, what do you mean? What are you going for? I go, I don't know yet. I need to walk in the locker room and get
figure out when I get there.
I used to, Jeff McNeil, he'd go crazy when he didn't get a hit. I knew golf was his button. I'd stop on the way in. I'd get a golf magazine. I'd just set it in his locker. And he'd go, hey, got the magazine, thanks. Cool. I could tell you buttons for everybody, Sometimes the button was leave them alone, but you don't get that unless you got a feel for a locker room and the way it works. Okay, what's important to them? Hey, let's fix the water pressure for them. What do you do at the locker room? You go to the bathroom and you take a shower. So let's make sure both those things are really comfortable. Let's fix the water pressure. let's fix the. But you only do it if you walk back there and it's important to you. You know, mode of travel, the bus, the plane, spring training. Hey, can I take my car over there? Are you going home after? I'd really like for you to be with the team. You know what for? Well, you'll know it when it happens.
Yeah.
But like I used to put the veteran players in the front of the plane instead of the back. But then I found out a lot of them don't like the coaches behind them where they can see what they're doing. So you got, like that. If someone's cheating on a test, they don't want the teacher behind them.
Yeah.
They want them in front of where they
Yeah.
can see it. Not that I ever did that.
Buck, we can't thank you enough for taking time out, coming on the show, sharing all your stories and your insight, and what you mean to the game. So just loved having you on. And that's another episode of To the Majors. Please click subscribe, get more content like this.